I am an orphan girl fostered in the Jiang family. The elders of the Jiang family asked Jiang to marry me. I happily married Jiang. He didn't refuse either. However, after the marriage, he was indifferent to me. Later, he simply used the excuse of doing business to live apart from me in different places for a long time. My mother-in-law disliked that I hadn't given birth to a child for the Jiang family. She showed me a cold face everywhere. I spent my entire life waiting for Jiang and serving my mother-in-law, exhausted both physically and mentally. I lay on the hospital bed. As my husband, Jiang didn't come to see me for the last time. Instead, Sensiyu kindly told me that Jiang was preparing for his wedding with her and didn't have time to see me. Adu said that he will hold the wedding with me right after you die. Fengwen, you have been the wife of the Jiang family for more than 30 years. My child and I have no status. You should be content. Only then did I know that Jiang actually had another family outside. He had a lover and a child. I was the only one who was all alone. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the time when I was in the Jiang family. Jiang's mother was still joking. Wenwen, do you like our Jiang? I don't like him anymore. In this life, I want to do the things I truly like. 1. It seemed that I could still smell the smell of the disinfectant in the hospital at the tip of my nose. The torture of the illness was still there. In front of me was Jiang's mother, that is, my mother-in-law in my previous life, who was still asking, Wenwen, do you like our Jiang? What do you think of marrying Adu after graduation? In the living room were the friends of the Jiang family and my parents when they were alive. The woman was so kind and gentle, full of love. She was completely different from the difficult and fierce person in my memory of my previous life. Because Jiang and I spent very little time together, I had no chance to get pregnant at all. She found all sorts of ways to torture me. I had to drink the extremely bitter medicine for getting pregnant every day without fail. She invited the goddess of mercy for bestowing sons and ordered me to kneel in front of it every day and chant scriptures and pray. This was not the worst. The daily sarcastic remarks were what really made me feel suffocated, not to mention that my mother-in-law asked me to serve her tea and water personally and give her massages. Whenever I showed any intention of resistance, she would wail and cry about the hardships of raising me, an orphan girl. She said that she treated me like her own daughter. She said that when I had nightmares as a child, it was she who hugged and comforted me. She said that when I was sick as a child, it was she who took care of me without taking off her clothes. This was my weakness, so I didn't resist. Wenwen, don't be shy, say something. My mother-in-law pushed me. Coming back to my senses, I met the woman's eyes that were full of eagerness. If I in my previous life could have observed more carefully, I would have found that this eagerness to match me and Jiang was actually eagerness to divide up my property. At that time, I was just a young lady who had been pampered since childhood. I had just experienced the great blow of losing both my parents, and I thought I had found a family and comfort in the Jiang family. How could I have thought so much? But now, I have experienced more than 30 years of a marriage in name only. I have experienced the torture when my mother-in-law tore off her disguise. I can see everything clearly now, so I stood up and smiled. Auntie, you seem to have misunderstood. I only regard Jiang as my elder brother, and after graduating from high school, I still want to go to university, too. My mother-in-law's face suddenly turned pale. Asking me today in front of everyone whether I liked Jiang was originally to confirm my marriage with Jiang. In this way, it would not be criticized for coaxing me to spend the property in my name. My mother-in-law quickly reacted. She naturally stood up and hugged me, and said to everyone, this girl is just shy. Adu, take Wenwen for a walk in the garden. Jiang was sitting on the sofa opposite. The young Jiang, young, handsome, and a bit aloof. Since Jiang's father was a friend of my parents, Jiang and I could barely be considered childhood sweethearts. Since I was a child, I liked to stick around him and ask him to play with me. When we were young, our relationship was quite good. Later, as we grew up, Jiang became a bit distant from me. In my previous life, I didn't understand. I just thought that as we grew older, we should pay attention to the issue between men and women. But I didn't want to think that in fact, Jiang was tired of me. I was a bit of a proud young lady and had a bad temper, yet he had to obey his parents' orders and do everything I asked. He didn't like me, but he couldn't get rid of me. Naturally, Jiang was annoyed. If he just ignored me, that would be fine, but he married me instead. After marrying me, he allowed his mother to torture me. After marrying me, he was affectionate with Sensiyu outside. I hated him. I hated myself even more. I was blinded by my feelings and lived such a miserable life. I clenched my fists and then slowly released them. I gently broke free from my mother-in-law's hug. I still had a smile on my face. It's okay, brother. You're going to meet classmates and see you later, right? If you like someone, you should bring them home early, one of the guests said. So Jiang-du already has someone he likes, then your mother is just matchmaking randomly. Only then did I look at Jiang-du directly. His face was even worse than my mother-in-law's. The corners of his eyes were slightly red. I didn't bother to look anymore. I greeted everyone present and left on my own. 3. After leaving the living room, I went straight to the mailbox in the front yard to search. Among the letters one by one, I finally saw the one with me as the recipient, Feng Wen. Jiang-du's voice came from behind. I quickly turned around and hid the letter behind my back. What kind of temper are you throwing today? I frowned. What's wrong? You confessed to me yesterday, and today you say you regard me as your brother. Can you change your habit of doing things on a whim? My mother treats you like her daughter, and you embarrassed my mother in public. I looked at him silently. I remembered my previous life. After the marriage, my mother-in-law also embarrassed me in front of others. I just complained to Jiang-du about it once, and it caused his resentment. He said, "Isn't my mother good enough to you? You can't stand it when she says a few words." So now I also returned these words to him. Auntie treats me like her daughter. Can't a daughter say a few sincere words without being able to stand it? He was speechless. He let out a sigh. You're acting very strange. In his opinion, I was naturally acting strange. After all, after my parents passed away in my previous life, I truly regarded the Jiang family as my home. I changed my previous arrogant temperament, not to mention speaking back to my mother-in-law a few times, even to Jiang-du. I carefully tried to please him. I sneered. So, what are you angry about? Didn't you hate it when I chased after you? Now I say I don't like you. Just as you wish. I wanted to leave after saying that. I still had to open the letter in my hand, but Jiang-du said, I don't have that intention. 4. That doesn't matter. Those things don't matter. Jiang-du, whether you love me or not is meaningless. Upon hearing this, Jiang-du frowned. You don't like it when I say something nice either. Feng Wen, you're still so difficult to get along with. After my parents passed away, I had no one to rely on, so, Jiang-du's attitude towards me also changed a lot. He didn't dare to speak loudly to me before. But now he said in my face that I was difficult to get along with. Am I difficult to get along with? I just didn't act according to his wishes. The so-called saying nice words from him was just to stabilize me first. It would be best to coax me into getting engaged to him. In my previous life, right after the engagement, he used the excuse that the company's business expansion needed funds. He asked me to take out most of my assets to pave the way for him. At that time, private businesses were being liberalized. There were opportunities to get rich everywhere. With my help, Jiang-du took over the real estate and non-staple food businesses in the entire Weiqing and became the richest man in the local area. During the more than 30 years of my loveless marriage, everyone envied me for being the wife of the richest man, but they didn't know that without me, Feng Wen, he, Jiang-du, wouldn't have had the chance to reach such a height at all, in this life. Let me stand at a high place. I'll just look down on the clowns in the Jiang family, watching them jump around and have their wild revelry until they bring about their own destruction. Too lazy to say more. I smiled. I'm just difficult to get along with. So what? If you don't like it, hold it in. 5. When I returned to my room, I couldn't wait to open the letter. In fact, I still have an uncle. He and my mother are half-siblings and now live in the United States. I met this uncle once, at that time. He came to our house to ask for help because he wanted to treat his old mother's illness. My parents gave him a lot of financial support and also introduced a good hospital to him. Later, our two families visited each other from time to time. We lost contact in recent years. In my previous life, I didn't know that in fact, my uncle went abroad to seek his fortune and accidentally became prosperous. It was already a year after he learned the news of my parents' car accident and death. He found out that I was adopted by the Jiang family, so he wrote to contact me. The letter was sent to our original home and then was transferred to the mailbox of the Jiang family. My mother-in-law always knew that there was a letter for me, but she chose to hide the letter and didn't say anything. It was only many years later that I knew that my uncle had been sending me money and letters all the time, but by then, it was already too late. After reading the letter, I learned that my uncle couldn't return to China for some reasons, so he chose to contact me by letter. The letter said that this was his 10th letter, and the content was no different from the previous ones. It was just to introduce his situation abroad and then comfort me. He asked me if I was willing to go to the United States. At that time, the United States was very advanced. It had top-notch education and majors at that time. There were $10 with a large amount in the letter. And there was also a plane ticket to the United States. My nose felt sour. It's so good. I'm not an orphan girl. I still have family. The boarding place is in the neighboring city of Shanghai, and the date is 4 days later. I pulled myself together. Next, I need to deal with the inheritance left by my parents. I won't touch the real estate. These locations are good, and there is hope for appreciation in the future. I will deposit the money separately. I'll take half of it abroad and leave half in the bank. Also, I don't know my uncle very well, so I need to make sure it's safe before I can get in touch with my uncle's family. 6. Fortunately, the college entrance examination was already over. I used the excuse of going to play with my classmates to go out. It's also convenient to deal with things. I happened to meet my classmates at the bank. They were delighted and said, "We were just going to look for you. Come on, let's go to the class reunion." The location of the reunion was chosen in the largest KTV in the city. At that time, singing karaoke was still a very fashionable thing. When I went there, Jiangdu was also there. Someone joked, "What's the matter? Fangwen isn't following you today." "Yeah, where's your little wife?" Jiangdu played with the lighter. "I'm so annoyed. I'm glad she's not here and I can have some peace. Also, I don't like Fangwen." The laughter of the crowd rose and fell. "Then who do you like?" The class beauty in our class. People were making a ruckus and pushing Sensiyu towards Jiangdu. The female companion beside me felt a bit embarrassed and coughed twice. The colored lights were flashing, and then everyone noticed me. I walked up to everyone generously. "It's so lively, you can continue." Jiangdu instinctively protected Sensiyu. "Fangwen, what kind of trick are you going to play this time?" "A trick? I wished I could just stab these two people to death directly. But now nothing has happened yet. If I said that I was terribly harmed by these two people in my previous life, who would believe me?" I laughed. "Jiangdu, why didn't you say you hated me earlier? You're such a coward." I simply clapped my hands. "Well, if you don't welcome me, then I'll leave." Everyone didn't react. I had already pushed the door and gone out. Jiangdu followed closely behind. "Fangwen, listen to me." "Ah," Sensiyu fainted. There was an exclamation from my classmates behind. Jiangdu quickly left me behind. "Fangwen, what I said just now was just out of anger. I'll explain it to you later." Before he could finish speaking, he couldn't wait to rush to Sensiyu's side. I watched coldly and then turned around and left firmly. "There won't be another chance to explain. In 3 days, I will go to the United States. From now on, I will no longer think of you, and you don't think of me either." 7. The next day, I tidied up my room. I threw away what should be thrown away. My mother-in-law came over and indirectly asked me which university I was applying for. Of course, I wouldn't tell her that I was going to study abroad. I casually mentioned the name of Shanghai University to muddle through. While praising that Shanghai University was good, my mother-in-law rolled her eyes and brought up Jiangdu's marriage with me again. "You can get engaged first. It won't delay you and Adu from going to university." Before I could say the words of refusal, my mother-in-law changed the subject and comforted me. "I've already asked Adu. He and that Sensiyu are just ordinary classmates. You just like to think too much." She still wouldn't give up. I distanced myself from my mother-in-law. "Auntie, I really have no intention of Jiangdu." My mother-in-law still didn't believe me and quickly promised, "Good child. I will definitely make sure that Adu breaks up with that female classmate completely." These words happened to be heard by Jiangdu. He didn't figure out the situation and walked up to me in a few steps. The look in his eyes when he looked at me was full of disappointment and disgust. "Missy, do you have to make everyone revolve around you? Sensiyu is in poor health and her family condition is not good. I took a little more care of her. You just have to make it known all over the world and even tell my mother about it." As if venting his anger, he tugged at the crystal necklace in his hand. The crystal beads fell one after another. They rolled around and disappeared in all directions. "I originally wanted to give this to you as an apology, but now it seems there's no need. I'll just tell you clearly, there's nothing between me and Sensiyu. I won't distance myself from her because of you either." After venting his anger on me, Jiangdu kicked open the trash bin at the door that I used to throw away waste. The trash bin fell to the ground as he kicked it, and all sorts of things inside, such as dolls and small ornaments, rolled out one by one. Jiangdu's eyes suddenly turned red. "These were all given to you by me." "Yeah, I don't like them anymore, so I threw them away." As I said that, I kicked away the crystal beads that rolled to my feet. They were such annoying things. I will board the plane to the United States in 2 days. The distance from Weicheng to Shanghai is not short. I have to go to Shanghai in advance. My passport was already done when I went abroad for a trip before. I don't have many things either. The valuable jewelry, property certificates, etc., are all stored in the bank safe. Coincidentally, Jeondu's parents went to other cities to do business, so I won't say goodbye to them in person. They did take care of me for many years. But it was just for those inheritances. My uncle sent some money, but my mother-in-law of the Jeon family secretly kept it for herself. It was enough for my food, drinks, and daily expenses over the years. When I went out carrying a small suitcase, I met Jeondu and Sensiyu in the living room downstairs. The two of them seemed to have just come back from outside. The small suitcase in my hand caught Jeondu's attention. He asked, "Where are you going? Are you going to complain to my mother again?" "I'm not interested in that." I motioned for the two of them not to block my way. "I'm going to play at a classmate's house. Auntie and the others know about it." I wasn't lying. I had indeed told my mother-in-law of the Jeon family that I would stay and play at a classmate's house for 2 days. Jeondu was still in a bad mood and said indifferently, "Come back by yourself then. I won't come to pick you up." It didn't matter to me. Sensiyu, who had been ignored, suddenly came over and said in a pitiful tone, "Classmate Fongwen, I was just kicked out of my home and have nowhere to go. Jeondu was kind enough to take me in. I heard from Aunt Jeon that you had an unpleasant experience with Jeondu because of me. I'm so sorry." "You don't need to say sorry to her." Jeondu held Sensiyu's wrist. "If she hadn't been so talkative, my mother wouldn't have bothered you. They really were a loving couple." I thought it was very boring and just walked forward on my own. Behind me, Sensiyu's weak and pitiful voice continued, "Jeondu, don't you want to go and coax classmate Fong? Don't mind her. She has nowhere else to go. Sooner or later, she'll come back." Jeondu said it with certainty. There was a hint of coldness and disdain in his tone. I paused for a moment, and then quickly continued walking forward. It turned out that their family thought I had nowhere else to go. So they bullied me like that. It didn't matter. "If we meet again, I'll also make you taste what it's like to have nowhere to go." 9. On the first day Fongwen left, Jeondu didn't feel anything unusual. On the second day, he asked the servant at home irritably, "Has the young lady still not come back?" The servant shook his head. The young man's handsome eyebrows furrowed deeply. "She really has the temper of a young lady. If she likes staying outside, then she can just never come back." After saying these harsh words viciously, he asked the servant again, "Did the young lady say which classmate's house she was going to?" The servant still shook his head. Jeondu felt even more annoyed. It was as if there was a stone pressing on his heart. It made him unable to breathe easily. When he passed by Fongwen's room, something seemed to be flashing beside the broad-leaved potted plant by the door. He thought of something. He bent down and picked it up. It was a lonely crystal bead. Jeondu was a bit stunned, then he squatted down and, as if possessed, wanted to look for other beads. A trace of regret welled up in his heart. Why did he break the necklace? This was clearly a graduation gift he had wanted to give to Fongwen. Shiny accessories were Fongwen's favorite. He had always known that Fongwen had a bad temper, but she had restrained herself a lot after her parents passed away. He also knew that. Why did he have to make her unhappy? He thought that when Fongwen came back, he would honestly apologize to her. However, he waited for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, but still didn't see Fongwen come home. The unease in his heart reached its peak. He started calling Fongwen's close classmates. The answers he got were all that they hadn't seen Fongwen. He didn't believe it. He went to look for her from one place to another. Still, there was no trace of Fongwen, until he opened the door of Fongwen's bedroom. In the room that was originally decorated warmly, those dolls he had given were gone. Fongwen's clothes and shoes were all gone too. The room became much emptier all of a sudden. Jeondu searched the room eagerly, trying to find the traces that Fongwen had once lived here. But all he found was a piece of letter paper pressed on the table by a book. "I've left, Uncle and Auntie. Don't worry about me." There were only 9 words, and not even a single punctuation mark belonged to Jeondu. 10. After the plane landed, I didn't immediately call according to the contact information my uncle had given me. Instead, I entrusted a detective to find out about my uncle's family situation. It didn't need to be very in-depth, just a simple understanding of whether the family was harmonious, etc. I thought that no family that was already in chaos would be willing to accept a strange relative. Fortunately, the news I got was that my uncle had a rather large farm in a certain state. My uncle had a good reputation locally. The family members were simple, and they got along harmoniously. I also made the worst plan. If my uncle wasn't reliable, I could also study in the United States on my own. It wasn't a big deal. After finishing the investigation and buying gifts for everyone, I contacted my uncle. When he learned that I had already arrived, he came to pick me up immediately. 3 days later, I finally arrived at my uncle's farm. My uncle was more than 10 years older than my mother. Because of his early gold mining experience and exposure to the sun and wind, he looked even older. He wasn't good at expressing himself, especially when facing me. He just sighed, "You really look like your mother." Then he gave me a card and told me to spend as I liked. He took me to ride the horses on the farm and allowed me to bully the big dog he raised. The big dog, who did I offend? My aunt was a slightly plump white woman. She could make delicious desserts. Let me say quietly that the desserts were delicious, but they were really cloying if you ate too much. But she was so enthusiastic. She made all kinds of pastries for me. My uncle's son was already married, and his wife was a Chinese American. Thanks to this elder brother and sister-in-law, I could still eat some Chinese food. My uncle's daughter was only 1 year older than me. When my elder sister saw my decent and proper dress, she shook her head exaggeratedly. "God, don't let those ugly clothes insult your perfect figure." Okay, then she took me to go on a crazy shopping spree in the city. With her around, I quickly integrated into the local young people. After the summer vacation, it was time to go to university. With my uncle's connections, I directly went to the university my elder sister attended. I chose the finance major. There was no other reason. My previous life experience combined with my current property and capital were enough for me to make a career. 11. The life in the United States was warmer than I had imagined. During the holidays, I played crazily on the farm and helped with some miscellaneous work. At school, I attended classes and did homework together with classmates from all over the world. In my sophomore year, after conducting sufficient research, I decided to start with some import and export trade business to gain experience. I had a talk with my uncle. He didn't deny my decision. Instead, he asked me if I had enough money and whether I wanted him to introduce some bosses to me. It would be better to have someone to guide me, as I would avoid many detours. But for a novice like me, it wasn't a big deal to take some detours. I was still young, with enough time and money, and I could afford to make mistakes, so I, together with 3 other classmates in my class, invested capital to start a small company. We exported American clothing and food to neighboring countries. A year later, in my junior year, the company made a small profit. However, my classmates had different thoughts. Some wanted to start their own businesses after making money, and some thought the company's profit was unstable and ran away. Just like that, the company was dissolved. The experience of running the company accumulated a lot of experience for me. If I were the source factory for the imported and exported products, I would earn more. I made plans and investigations again, preparing to start another company before graduation. In my spare time, with the money I earned, I bought a car for my uncle. I also bought an apartment near the school for myself and lived with my elder sister. In the apartment, I adopted a lot of stray cats, both the disabled and the healthy ones. I took them all in. When the sunlight shone on the balcony, these fluffy creatures would curl up into a ball. They would nestle at my feet and sleep. I stroked one and played with another, and I suddenly thought of my previous life. I liked cats very much. After much coaxing, I finally got Jiangdu to buy a small Siamese cat. Just after bringing it back, Jiangdu's parents disliked it very much. They said that the cat would affect a pregnant woman. You can't get pregnant anyway. And you still keep this thing. It's so unlucky. The little Siamese cat didn't know what it had done wrong. It curled up in my arms, looking wronged. I had to entrust it to a classmate who also loved cats. I gave money and things and visited it regularly. As I thought about this, I picked up a long-haired big orange cat. It seemed that I hadn't thought of my previous life and the Jiang family for a long time. After all, I was living a very happy life now. I didn't need to recall those unpleasant things. 12. In the second semester of my junior year, my new company was established. It was engaged in the dairy products business. From raising dairy cows to processing dairy products, I would gradually improve the industrial chain step by step. Finally, in the year I graduated, the production chain was fully improved. In this way, I could greatly reduce the cost, whether it was the business in the United States or the export business. I had the confidence to negotiate prices with the other party. After everything was stable, I proposed to go back to China and take a look. My uncle naturally didn't stop me. My elder sister accompanied me back to China. As soon as we landed, my blonde and blue-eyed partner, Anderson, came up to us with a bunch of roses. He was a very standard handsome white man. He could also speak Chinese very well. Feng Wen, are you surprised? I was speechless. Didn't you say you were going to negotiate about the land? If you followed me here, who will deal with that? His green eyes flashed. In your heart, I'm not as important as the company at all, am I? Of course, don't act pitiful. My elder sister covered her mouth and laughed beside me. This guy is as handsome as your bodyguard. Then she secretly gave Anderson a thumbs up. Come on, encouraged. Anderson ran over confidently to pull my suitcase for me, but before he could touch the suitcase, another tall figure stood beside me. He casually pulled up the handle of the suitcase, and he also held an umbrella for us in a gentlemanly manner. The muscular forearm in front of me was very firm. I could vaguely see the outline of the blue veins under the wheat-colored skin. The special car has been arranged, boss. Chen Cheng's voice was rather cold, but his tone was quite gentle. I looked up, and the man's black hair and black eyes came into view. There was no expression on his face. He just stood in front of Anderson, as if he didn't notice him at all. Childish, I thought to myself and got into the car. 13. There were great changes in China. I first went to pay my respects at my parents' graves. When I arrived, in front of my parents' tombstone, a bunch of withered white chrysanthemums was rustling in the wind. Presumably, some of my parents' friends when they were alive had been here. I moved the chrysanthemums away and placed my own bouquet of flowers. I told my parents about my life abroad. I told them about how my uncle took care of me, my aunt's good cooking skills, only for desserts, the unreliable deeds of my elder brother and sister-in-law in taking care of the newborn. When it came to myself, I said that everything was going well. I had relatives I could act coquettishly with and rely on. I graduated as an excellent graduate, and I met many like-minded friends in my business. Don't worry, I'm taking good care of myself. It started to rain. The rain slid into my mouth, and it tasted salty. After our group finished paying our respects, we walked out of the cemetery. Anderson held an umbrella for my elder sister. Chen Cheng walked side by side with me. Just then, we happened to brush past a man and a woman. The man was holding a bunch of white chrysanthemums. The woman was running behind with an umbrella, and the words she said were a bit harsh. Even if you come here every day, you won't meet Fong Wen. I'm still pregnant. Why can't you consider my feelings? It was a familiar yet strange female voice. I instinctively turned my head to look. Who else could this man and woman be but Jiangdu and Sensiyu, my elder sister, Anderson, and the others all looked at me when they heard them mention my name. I shook my head, indicating that we should ignore them. Sensiyu kept talking. Jiangdu suddenly stopped, turned around, and snatched the umbrella from her, throwing it away. Can you just let me be quiet? You're really annoying. Sensiyu let out a scream and almost fell down. Seeing that the two of them were about to have a big quarrel in front of my parents' tombstone, I quickly asked the cemetery management to deal with it. As for why I didn't show myself directly in front of Jiangdu, it was because I didn't come back to China for him. I was interested in the current real estate. I came back to talk about business. So I didn't want to get involved with those unpleasant things. 14. It was very unfortunate. When I went to see the old house, I met an elder. He was an old acquaintance of my parents and the Jiang family. He quickly called and told my mother-in-law of the Jiang family that I had returned to China. My mother-in-law of the Jiang family was very excited and asked me to wait for her where I was. You child. Why didn't you tell Auntie when you came back? Auntie was so worried about you. Wait for me to come and pick you up. No, Auntie, I still have something to do. I took the initiative to hang up the phone. I returned the mobile phone to that elder. When the mother and son of the Jiang family rushed over, our group had already taken a car to a hotel in the city. We were going to attend a banquet in the evening. We would have contact with several developers in Weiqing. We would talk about the cooperation matters. The banquet was quite grand. Our group was used to drinking and socializing in the United States, so we were also very comfortable here. During the banquet, I had a pleasant conversation with several bosses. Half of this was due to the fact that I really had my own views on doing business. The other half was because everyone had a slight acquaintance with my parents. I had both connections and economic strength. The business negotiation went smoothly. In the middle of the banquet, there was some commotion at the entrance of the hall. Mr. Zhang, the host, was unhappy and asked what had happened. Boss Jiang doesn't have an invitation but insists on breaking in. Mr. Zhang looked at me. He naturally knew that I had once been adopted by the Jiang family. He smiled and said, the subordinates are just negligent. They forgot to give Boss Jiang an invitation. Why don't you invite him in? I showed a calm reaction on the surface, but in my heart, I secretly found it funny. What forgot to give the invitation? They just looked down on the Jiang family's wealth. Without my financial support, the Jiang family's small company could hardly continue. Moreover, due to various policy changes, the company was almost on the verge of bankruptcy. In such a situation, who would still be willing to pay attention to the Jiang family? I didn't stop Mr. Zhang from letting him in. After all, Outsiders didn't know the grudges between me and the Jiang family. If it spread that I was ungrateful, that wouldn't be very good. On the surface, I still maintained my dignity. 15. Jiang Du's gaze locked onto me in an instant. He was wearing a semi-old high-end custom-made suit. Because of the previous pushing and shoving, it had become a bit wrinkled. He didn't care to tidy it up and strode towards me. When, you're finally back. The eagerness in his eyes was like a lit lamp. It made his dull eyes shine brightly. I didn't move. Just 1 second before Jiangdu came close, 3 people stood in front of me. My elder sister frowned. Who are you? Anderson put his hands on his hips. Another one. Chin silently rolled up his sleeves and took off the watch on his wrist. We are legitimate business people. When, Jiangdu's eyes suddenly turned red. Why? I don't intend to reminisce with him. Long time no see. I still have something to do. Make yourself at home. Behind Jiangdu, his mother followed closely. Taking advantage of her age, she squeezed over with a shameless face. When, you said, why did you just run away without a word back then? Where have you been all these years? She grabbed my hand and started wiping away tears. I broke free from her little by little. Auntie, you received all the letters my uncle sent back. Why didn't you tell me? Besides, I left a note when I left. Everyone present was very shrewd. After I said these 2 sentences, everyone probably knew what had happened. It was nothing more than that Zhang's mother had withheld my uncle's letters and tried to prevent me from looking for my relatives. She didn't do such a thing because she liked me too much. It was because she liked the property under my name too much. I don't need to make it clear. It's enough that everyone knows. Zhang's mother immediately stopped crying. She forced a smile and said, When, don't be angry. How could I know if it was a hoax or not? By the way, Jiangdu looked for you for a long time after you left. You two should have a good chat and catch up. As she said that, she forcefully pulled Jiangdu beside me. Jiangdu didn't say anything, just stared at me with red eyes. His gaze made me very uncomfortable. I frowned, and Chen came over and told Jiangdu to keep some distance from me. The boss doesn't like others getting too close. Anderson stood on the other side and blocked him. Hey, even I, who am so handsome, couldn't catch her. You'd better give up quickly. Jiangdu didn't look at these 2 people and stared at me, asking, why did you leave? Do you know how long I've been looking for you? I shook my head. I don't know, and I don't want to know. 16. Jiangdu choked. He took out a crystal necklace from his pocket. I fixed this. The day I went to find you was to make up with you. When. I'll never be muddle-headed again in the future. He spoke so sincerely, and the light in his eyes flickered. Anderson glanced at the crystal necklace and laughed. I mean, can such a worthless thing be given as a gift? Jiangdu looked at me deeply. I'll get you anything you want. Please, don't ignore me. I've never cared about the value of a gift. In the past, the cloth dolls that Jiangdu casually gave me would make me happy for a long time. I was happy because of the person I liked. Now, not only do I not like Jiangdu, but I'm even too lazy to waste my feelings of disgust on him. He's too weak. Putting aside the emotions that blinded me in my previous life, he is not worth being my opponent at all. I still prefer the way you were unruly. I smiled. The way you thought you could control me was quite interesting. When. Those were just angry words. He hurried to explain. I thought, oh, it doesn't matter. I took a glass of champagne from the waiter and said indifferently, does your wife know that you came to see me? Don't delay my business negotiations. Okay. Jiangdu's lips twitched, as if he had been greatly shocked. In my previous life, if I wanted to say one more word to him, he would say, don't delay his work. His work was to have sex with Sensiu every night and have children. The whole family was very happy. Seeing that I was about to leave, Jiangdu panicked. Don't go. Can we start over? This time, before I could speak, my elder sister splashed a glass of wine in his face. Have you no shame? You have a wife but still dare to provoke my sister. This time, all the color drained from Jiangdu's face. I didn't mean to hide the fact that I'm married. When. I just want to win you back. Don't be angry. Sensiu and I was an accident. She drugged me. And that's why I made a mistake. All these years, I'd been as pure as jade for you. Wait a minute. Don't insult the words as pure as jade, okay? What do I have to be angry about? In the end, Jiangdu and his mother were invited out by Mr. Zhang. After the banquet ended, Jiangdu was still waiting to see me. Unexpectedly, Sensiu came over with a big belly and started punching and kicking him. I'm carrying the seed of your Jiang family, and you still can't forget another woman. Are you even human? Women during pregnancy are naturally irritable. Instead of coaxing her, Jiangdu thought her shouting was too annoying. He told her to get out and go home. In the end, the 2 of them actually fought. Then, Zhang's mother pushed Sensiu down. Crimson liquid trickled down her leg. I withdrew my gaze and got into the car. Jiangdu directly left his wife, who needed to be sent to the hospital, and chased after my car. He kept shouting my name. "He's really infatuated," my elder sister said with a look of disgust. "He's a total scumbag." I corrected her. "He's not infatuated with me. He wants to use our past relationship to move me and make me help the Jiang family. A person like him only loves himself." 17. The cooperation negotiation was quite successful. I will invest together with Mr. Zhang and others to undertake the largest new emerging shopping mall in Weiqing. Due to the preliminary preparation work, I still need to stay in the country for a while. Anderson went back to our home country first. Before he left, he repeatedly told me, "There's an old saying in Huagua. A good horse doesn't turn back to eat the grass. Don't make up with that guy." Also, the bodyguard Chen Qing won't do either. His monthly salary can't even afford your watch. With such big muscles, he looks like he's good at fighting. Chen Qing walked over silently. "Boss, I also have a martial arts hall, and the monthly profit." I gave the two of them a glare. "I can buy things myself. Currently, I just want to make money. If you delay my making money, I'll fire both of you." Anderson glared at Chen Qing and angrily boarded the plane. Chen Qing silently pulled his sleeves down a bit. It seemed that he wanted to cover his muscles, but with his broad shoulders and narrow waist, he could hide his arms, but not his solid pectoral muscles. So childish. Jiangdu came to look for me several times. Later, he was too preoccupied with his own problems and gave up. After Tsinsiyu had a miscarriage, her relatives from her hometown swarmed over. They came to Weiqing and demanded an explanation from Jiangdu. The Jiang family's company's profits had already been dismal. With the interference of Tsinsiyu's relatives, it directly declared bankruptcy. They also found a very good lawyer to help Tsinsiyu fight the divorce lawsuit against Jiangdu. Tsinsiyu got most of the remaining property of the Jiang family. Zhang's father hanged himself at the company's old site due to the bankruptcy. Zhang's mother went crazy all day long because of the shock. She talked to the air every day and scolded the non-existent daughter-in-law on her own. "If you don't take the medicine, how can you give birth to a son for our family? If you don't kneel to the Bodhisattva, how can you give birth to a son for Adu?" Later, Zhang's mother went to the street and threw a tantrum. She was hit by a passing vehicle, and she ended up paralyzed in bed. Jiangdu begged Tsinsiyu for some money to treat his mother. Most of Tsinsiyu's money had gone into her relatives' pockets, and she simply couldn't take it out. Moreover, Tsinsiyu held a grudge against the Jiang family and wouldn't help even if she had the money. The two of them started arguing again. This time, Jiangdu attributed all his misfortunes to Tsinsiyu. During the fight, he took out a knife. It directly led to Tsinsiyu's death. Jiangdu was quickly arrested, and I, very kindly, went to the hospital to visit Zhang's mother. I paid her medical bills, by the way. Everyone praised me for being affectionate, but they didn't know that I hired the worst nurse for her. She soon had bedsores all over her body. She stank all over. I stood beside her and smiled at her. "Auntie, you have the memories of your previous life, right? When you were torturing me, did you ever think that one day you would fall into my hands? You clearly knew that Jiangdu had someone else outside. But you still blamed me for not being able to have children. When I was taking medicine and being punished to kneel, you were enjoying the family happiness with Tsinsiyu's child. You should also taste my pain." Zhang's mother opened her eyes angrily and waved her hands, but she couldn't even touch my sleeve. She could only open her mouth and let the saliva flow out. Her eyes were full of unwillingness. "I won't let her die. Just let her live on in this pitiful state." Before Jiangdu was executed, he requested to see me. I agreed. Facing me, he cried and repented. He said that many memories that didn't belong to him emerged in his mind. He saw that his indifference to me in his previous life had caused me to live a lonely and miserable life. "Can you forgive me? I love you. The reason I couldn't face my own heart is because I wanted to get rid of my parents' control. I've always listened to them, but when they told me to love you, I lost my mind and wanted to do the opposite. How childish. I've lost everything now." He sobbed. I shook my head. He actually smiled. "It's okay. It's okay if you hate me. I'm so miserable in this life. Let it be my retribution." This time, I couldn't help but laugh. Retribution? How could there be such a coincidental retribution? In the reflection of the glass window, my somewhat excited eyebrows and eyes were shown. "Do you think that the downfall of your company was all due to the environment? Do you think it was just a coincidence that Tsinsiyu could find the location of the banquet?" Jiangdu's mother was still joking. "Wenwen, do you like our Jiangdu? Shuxin, could those relatives from the village really find a top-notch lawyer team for her?" Jiangdu's face turned pale little by little, until there was not a trace of blood left. However, His eyes were bloodshot. You hate me this much? Why shouldn't I hate? In my previous life, I didn't do anything outrageous, but I ended up living a life that was neither human nor ghost. It was because the Jiang family coveted my property. They ruined my whole life. In this life, I'd just done a little bit of manipulation. I'd been very merciful already. Those choices were also the choices made by the Jiang family themselves. I stood up and the last words I left for Jiangdu were, "I'll bring the news of your execution to your mother." I walked out of the prison and got into the special car. The black car drove through the rain curtain. The newly divided commercial area already had the embryonic form of tall buildings. My future is coming. Story 2. In my previous life, I was swept away by a flood while trying to protect my sister. Years later, when we reunited, my parents forced me to take the blame for her. I died in prison, full of resentment, witnessing their wicked deeds. If I must die, as long as Chan is safe, it's alright. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the flood. I pried my sister's fingers off one by one, smiling unrestrainedly. Hold your breath, sister is letting go now. The day after I learned that I was the tortured female protagonist, I was reborn. Sister, hold on to me. I don't want to die. In the midst of the storm, Lu Chanchan clung desperately to my hand, leaving trails of blood on my skin. My body shivered, and I suddenly realized I was no longer a spirit. I had truly been reborn on the day my twin sister Lu Chanchan disappeared. Before I could rejoice, the wooden stake beneath us started to crack. We were trapped here. The rain continued to pour, the stream flowed like a waterfall, and the stake was about to give way. In my past life, in an attempt to save Lu Chanchan, I pulled her onto the stake too, but the first thing she did was push me into the water. Sister, this stake is too thin. It can't hold both of us, so could you be generous and let me have it? Before I could recover from my shock, I was swept away by the raging currents. When I awoke, I had hit my head in the torrent and spent my days dazed in a secluded mountain village, beaten and insulted. I lived a life that was neither human nor ghost-like. 15 years later, my biological parents took me back to provide for my education. I thought they were there to make up for the lost affection, but all their care was to make me take the fall for my sister, who had fled after causing an accident. Yen, it's not that mom and dad are biased. We've invested so much in Chan over the years. She's still so young, has such a bright future, and she's about to marry the wealthiest man locally. We really can't afford to waste her youth in prison. Yes, Yen, actually spending a few years in jail isn't that long. We'll take care of everything for you. Once you go, you won't suffer any injustice. When you get out, Mom will definitely take you back home and take good care of you. They seemed earnest, like parents who truly cared for their daughter. But even with my compromised intellect, I knew that being in prison was no good. I struggled to escape, but was restrained by the bodyguards they brought and was forced into the police station to take the blame. The verdict came quickly. Lu Chanchan and I, being identical twins, looked extremely alike. With a little makeup, hardly anyone noticed the switch. I spent 5 years in prison, but the days were not as good as Lu's parents had promised. Being frail, I became a target for bullying in prison. Not only did I have to do the dirtiest and toughest jobs, but I also faced endless beatings. Every month when the supplies were distributed, even my sanitary pads were confiscated by the so-called big sister. Under their care, I mysteriously lost a kidney, perhaps fearing retribution. The Lu family gave me a sum of money after I was released, but by then, I was drained of life and soon died full of resentment. After my death, my soul returned to the Lu family. Only then did I learn that all the suffering I endured in prison was orchestrated by Lu Chanchan. A fool like you deserves to be my sister and share the Lu family's wealth. Even on that stormy day years ago, when she insisted on going out in the rain to buy snacks, I went with her out of concern for her safety. That was when the floodwaters swept her away. Sister, help me please. The splashes from the heavy rain almost obscured the face of Lu Chanchan. As she struggled to call out, she desperately pulled me forward, crawling. The pain of my nails cutting into my skin snapped me back to reality. Seeing her still somewhat immature face, the corners of my lips curled up further. Are you thinking that this wooden stake is too thin to support both of our weights? Or are you thinking, once you get on it, you can push your sister down and save yourself? A flash of shock passed through Lu Chanchan's eyes, mixed with embarrassment at having her thoughts exposed. But after all, she was still a child, not yet mature, with doubts in her heart. She naturally voiced them out, murmuring, How did you know? Of course, I knew, because I was thinking the same thing, as if she guessed what I was about to do. The color drained from Lu Chanchan's face. Sister, don't do this. I am your sister, your full sister, tisk, tsk, tsk. Now she remembers we're full sisters. I made a silencing gesture with my hand, and then, under her horrified gaze, I pried her already weakened fingers off one by one. Hold your breath, sister is going to let go now. Lu Qianshan disappeared. From then on, the Lu family was left with only one child named Lu Yanyan. My parents posted notices and advertisements, but I was in my room, my eyes swollen from crying, not from sadness, but from overwhelming joy. Though tears streamed down uncontrollably, my smile was broader than an AK. Seeing me like this, my parents thought I was distressed by my sister's disappearance. Their hearts softened, and they couldn't bring themselves to scold me. My dear, it's not your fault. Your sister was too naughty. If she hadn't insisted on going out to buy snacks, you wouldn't have had to chase her out in the storm. It's good that you're safe. Let's just be a happy family of 3. Parents always favor the child by their side. It used to be Lu Qianshan, but from that moment on, the scales would forever tip in my favor. I couldn't help but wonder, what would Lu Qianshan think if she heard this? Certainly, she wouldn't feel good. As for why I'm so sure she'll come back, that's because, after I died, a voice in my head told me that my sister and I are the protagonists of 2 different novels. She holds the script of an uplifting female lead, who, despite early hardships, will have a smooth life after turning 20, so, at the latest, in 15 years, Lu Qianshan will definitely be found by the Lu family. As for me, I'm the main character in a family drama novel. Holding a Dark Lotus persona but ultimately unable to resist the plot's direction, forced to endure physical and emotional torment, and finally using my death to punish the Lu family. But what good does that do? They continue to live well without a scratch. How could that be considered repentance? Fortunately, heaven has given me another chance to be reborn. This time, I won't be naive or foolishly manipulated. Those who hurt me will definitely pay the price they deserve. I laid out a piece of white paper and analyzed my situation in detail. In this life, my advantage lies in being physically healthy and mentally clear, and having been reborn once, I am familiar with the plot and can take some early advantages. My disadvantages lie in areas like perspectives and knowledge, things I never touched in my past life. So, the next step is naturally using these 15 years to fill in the gaps and ensure Lu Qianshan can never catch up to me again. However, this requires strong financial support. I searched through the information in my mind and vaguely recalled from a previous life. There was a peddler who came to our village to collect chicken feathers. He said that in the south there was a minimum guarantee, exchanging chicken feathers for sugar. One could even get a large villa. It was only later that I realized, this was the time of economic reform and opening up. Many people stood at this turning point and made a fortune. Calculating the years, now is the perfect time to start a business. Thus, I subtly hinted this information to my parents, telling them that a classmate's parents were in the South, making at least 30,000 a month. These two, one driven by status and the other by greed, wouldn't have tried to keep Lu Qianshan marrying into a wealthy family by pushing me into prison, using every effort at their disposal. After discussing all night, the next day they stopped searching for Lu Qianshan and took me south to trade in mobile phones. Let's set aside the matter with our daughter for now. If we miss this chance to make money, we might never get rich again. On the rumbling train, the whistle sounded long and lingering. Vast wheat fields hurried past before my eyes. I leaned on my palm, listening to their loud scheming, and couldn't help but laugh out loud. How tiring it is to make money oneself. It's much more satisfying to have your enemies work hard to support you. I just wonder what expression Lu Qianshan would have, after going through so much trouble to find her way home, only to discover that her family had long since disappeared. Since she was young, she had a tendency to get lost, but no matter how many times she wandered off, she would be returned home by kind-hearted people within at most half a month. But this time, I moved the home away. My dear sister, how will you come back now? In the warm sunshine, I lazily stretched. 15 years of good times. Let me, Lu Yanyan, enjoy them. Several years later, under my guidance, my parents successfully started their own business. They treated me as a lucky star, showering me with more affection and even transferred 10% of the company shares into my name. This was not because they loved me so much, but because they believed that I could bring them greater profits. By the age of 12, I had become a well-known little rich girl, attended to by personal staff wherever I went, but it still wasn't enough. I had to prepare for Lu Qianshan's return in 8 years. I quietly returned to Qin City and found Tan Jiahe being whipped by his uncle, shirtless. My money and your aunt's isn't blown by the wind. You loaf around here, eat for free, and don't even work hard. I let you read books. I let you not feed the pigs properly, yet clearly, Tan Jiahe was only 10 years old. A man's son was munching on a steaming hot sweet corn, continuously egging his dad on to keep hitting, yet the young boy endured silently, his stubborn back straight and firm, showing no sign of weakness. This was the second time I saw him, the last time was at my grave. After being released from prison, knowing I was beyond help, I donated all the money from my parents to children who couldn't afford school. Tan Jiahe was the only one among these children who came to the cemetery to mourn me. At that time, he had succeeded in his endeavors, while I had been trapped at the tombstone for 10 years. It was the small daisies he brought that freed my spirit, allowing me to live another life. In the end, I spent 5,000 yuan to sever his ties with his aunt's family. When the money was handed over, the disbelief in the young boy's eyes turned into shimmering tears. Despite being 2 years younger, he was much shorter than me. I bent down and reached out my hand to him. Would you like to come with me? The boy didn't hesitate. Yes, it's going to be tough. I'm not afraid. Such a firm gaze. It had been a long time since I had seen him. I took off my coat and draped it over his frail body, then led him to the car. Behind us, my greedy uncle's family was still counting money. They didn't know that the money was sequentially numbered, and that I had bought it at a high price from a thief. Soon, they would be imprisoned for a few years on charges of theft. I held Tan Jiahe's hand as we got into the car. The young boy was initially timid, worried about staining the seats with the dirt on his clothes. You're coming home with me as a younger brother. If you aspire to rise above, don't ever feel inferior deep down, I told him. The boy's demeanor changed, and he confidently stepped into the car. Just as the car door closed, a sudden shout came from behind. Sister, is that you? It was your mom. I felt a headache coming on. Has her dramatic flair become so strong that we could encounter her like this? The butler, noticing the striking resemblance between Lu Qianqian and me, murmured, Miss, is this? However, before I could speak, Tan Jiahe's cold gaze swept over, and he spoke first. Don't ask about things that aren't your concern. Well, he's quite the quick learner. Pleased, I smiled faintly. The young master has spoken. You know what to do when we get back. After a moment's thought, the butler pressed the accelerator and sped off. Miss, rest assured, I saw nothing. Behind us, Lu Qianqian had caught up, but just as she leaned on the car door, mud splashed by the wheels covered her. She lost her balance and face planted into the snow. Trying to catch up, her overly large shoes caused her to frequently fall. I couldn't help but laugh. Only when her ridiculous figure completely disappeared from view did I turn away. Tan Jiahe was staring at me intently. His hands were clenched into fists, and veins were visible under his pale skin. I asked him what was wrong. After a long silence, he finally said, I won't let you regret buying me. In the warm breeze of the car, the young boy spoke deliberately. Silly boy, of course, I won't regret it, because I knew that in just 5 years, you would become the most outstanding strategist in Qin City, and also the sharpest dagger I wield against the Lu family. 8 years flew by. On my 20th birthday, Lu Qianqian disguised as a waitress and sneaked into the venue. Amid the superficial small talk of the crowd, she suddenly knelt before my parents. My mother was startled and exclaimed, Where did this lunatic come from? Tears slowly streamed down Lu Qianqian's face. Mom, Dad, don't you recognize me? I'm Qianqian. She clung desperately to my mother's skirt hem, her face filled with disbelief. In her previous life, she was a delicate young lady. This time, however, due to constant exposure to the elements, both her hands were rough and worn, like frostbite scars that had recurred without proper treatment. A look of disgust flashed across my mother's eyes. That look was identical to the one she had given me in a remote village in her previous life. Children are acutely aware of their parents' subtle emotions. Lu Qianqian stiffened as if stung, instinctively shrinking back. Whispers started among the crowd. Could it be that the Lu family has an illegitimate daughter? She does look a bit like Miss Lu. Are you blind? This waitress is dark and thin. How can you see any resemblance? Perhaps due to malnutrition. In this life, Lu Qianqian hadn't developed the curvaceous figure of her past. Her skin was deeply tanned, and she had a physique like a bean sprout. Watching quietly from the second floor, Tan Jiahe appeared just in time and whispered, The surveillance has been taken care of. No one will know we let her in, I responded softly with a took his hand, and went downstairs. As we approached, my father's face was already stern. He had the servants take Lu Qianqian away first, probably because he recognized her. That was originally the best way to handle it, but Lu Qianqian was not appreciative. I don't want this. Suddenly, she screamed in the crowd, pushing over a massive champagne tower. I've suffered for over a decade outside, and now that I've finally come back, Why won't you recognize me? She wanted to cause a scene to force the Liu family to acknowledge her identity publicly, but she didn't realize that a rich person's gathering isn't just a party, it's also a venue for facilitating business deals. My parents wanted to close a major deal today and naturally wouldn't allow any disturbances. Moreover, she was trying to drag me into her mess. Where's Liu Yanyan? It was Liu Yanyan who pushed me into the water all those years ago, Mom and Dad. You have to stand up for me, she accused me impatiently, but before she could finish, a sharp slap landed on her sunburnt, dry face. You disgrace, do you think you can tarnish my family's daughter? I must say, the old man reacted quite swiftly. In today's setting, an insult to me was a direct affront to them. Insulting me was like slapping their own faces. So, without my needing to act, my father naturally intervened, seeing the situation had escalated enough. I pushed through the crowd and helped the stunned Liu Qianqian to her feet, bending down to dust her off. I whispered in her ear, do you think our parents would believe you, a crude girl from the countryside? How could you ever be more important than a daughter they meticulously raised? I returned her words from another life back to her exactly as she had said them. Liu Qianqian shuddered all over, reminded of the vast difference between our current statuses, like a deflated chick. She was dragged out of the venue by security called by Tan Jiahe. My parents looked displeased, and I consoled them a bit before queuing up a string quartet performance I had prepared earlier. The party quickly returned to its lively state. Everyone praised my kindness and propriety. A few aunts even affectionately asked if I was engaged yet. In these circles, gossip and scandals are merely conversation starters. Interests are the eternal rulers. I responded to each in kind, presenting myself as the perfect lady of the house. Afterward, I took my parents to a suite to rest. My mother patted the back of my hand and sighed softly. Lucky for us to have Yan Yan, born on the same day. But your sister doesn't have half your wits. My father also muttered under his breath. She's only just returned and already causing trouble. Had I known, it would have been better if she'd died out there. Facing a daughter who had suffered for years, their first reaction was to scold her. I glanced at Liu Qianqian hiding behind a folding screen. With such cold-blooded parents, even I felt chilled, let alone her, returning with full hopes, a stab in the heart, so cruel. Indeed, her figure wobbled, nearly unable to stand. Suppressing a smile, I pretended to console. Don't say that, after all, Qianqian is part of our family. My father sighed in frustration. Enough. Let's take her home first and let Yan Yan teach her properly. They were about to embark on a project in Europe and had no time to deal with Liu Qianqian. I smiled. Don't worry, leave her to me. The simple truth of karma. I had long wanted to teach her a lesson. 6. After Liu Qianqian was settled in the old house by her parents, they left for France with Tan Jiahe early the next morning. When I got up, I heard Liu Qianqian arguing with the nanny. Wu Ma, what do you mean by throwing away the clothes? Wu Ma sneered disdainfully. Sorry. My miss is a clean freak. She doesn't wear clothes that others have dirted. Last night, after the party, the butler went to fetch Liu Qianqian's luggage, but with a grand gesture, she declared, what status do I have now that I should settle for such low-end stuff? In front of the butler, she burned her old clothes to ashes. So, when she returned last night, she had no choice but to wear my pajamas. Unexpectedly, this morning when I woke up, I saw Wu Ma tossing the pajamas Liu Qianqian had changed out of into the trash. Liu Qianqian grabbed Wu Ma, demanding an explanation. I only wore it once. How could it be dirty? Wu Ma huffed, muttering softly. Don't you know yourself how they got dirty? 20 years ago, Wu Ma's husband ran off with a nightclub hostess, leaving behind his mentally challenged son, depending solely on her. And according to Tan Jiahe's investigation, before returning to the Liu family, Liu Qianqian had also worked in a nightclub. I had intentionally let slip this information to Wu Ma last night, and sure enough, it exploded today. The two quarreled incessantly. Liu Qianqian grabbed Wu Ma by the hair, swinging at her from both sides. Wu Ma was not to be outdone, being a distant relative of her mother. She was used to throwing her weight around. Though she didn't dare to curse openly, she used underhanded tactics to leave several red marks on Liu Qianqian. I remembered in my past life, I had also briefly stayed with the Liu family. Back then, Wu Ma, under Liu Qianqian's instigation, humiliated me in every way. Only at that time, I was naive, thinking even those who fed me stale buns were kind. I knocked on the glass door, the crisp sound bringing them back to their senses. Wu Ma looked at me, flustered. Miss, you, dock a month's salary. Liu Qianqian looked triumphantly at Wu Ma. Did you hear that? I am the young mistress of the Liu family, and you are nothing but a dog of the Liu family. Tired of living, are you? Before she could finish, I continued, no going out for a month. That stunned Lu Qianqian. Why? There was no why. In the Lu family, I had absolute authority. Wu Ma scoffed. Ha. A jungle fowl still thinks it's a phoenix. Seeing the once close servant and master turn against each other, I couldn't help but feel pleased. Holding my ticket for a vacation in Venice, I quietly turned away, leaving them to their renewed world war. A month should be enough for them to tear each other apart. 7. I really do acknowledge Wu Ma's fighting spirit. When I returned from my vacation, Lu Qianqian had been so agitated she broke out in acne all over her face. This only added insult to injury given her already modest looks. When my father returned and saw her swollen, pustule-covered face, he actually made her eat in the kitchen alone. The reason? She was dampening the whole family's appetite. I had to pinch my thigh blue to keep from laughing out loud. Lu Qianqian, carrying her bowl, shot me a venomous look as if to say, you just wait. But the protagonist of a thrilling tale always finds her footing quickly. Under our parents' arrangement, she enrolled in the same prestigious school I attended. During the opening ceremony, as I, representing the returning students, took the stage to speak, I found a flattened dead toad in my speech notes, tiny, but enough to drive me mad. Below the stage, Lu Qianqian smiled with ill intent, only she knew that ever since I was little, I've been terrified of those slimy, slippery things. But those tricks are outdated. In my past life, after I was found, my parents placed me in her class. Lu Qianqian secretly put several dead toads into my backpack. The cold, stiff touch awakened the fears I had harbored since sleeping under the bridge, causing me to scream in class and further solidifying the rumor that the eldest daughter of the Lu family was a fool. During my brief time at school, I was isolated, slandered, and bullied, until my parents dragged me to take the blame for her. But not this time around. Years ago, I deliberately rented a dark, damp basement and forced myself to stay in the same room with them. The first time lasted only half an hour. When Tan Jiahe pulled me out, my lips were pale, but I asked him to lock me in a little longer. It took me 3 months to completely overcome my fear of amphibians. With a scornful smile, I calmly closed the folder containing my speech and took the microphone. As the representative of the senior students, I hope everyone understands. Swearing cleanses your mouth. Revenge taken at the moment keeps one's standards high. As soon as I finished speaking, I rushed toward Lu Qianqian below the stage with lightning speed. Before she could react, I grabbed her jaw with one hand and stuffed the dead toad into her mouth. Lu Qianqian's eyes widened in shock as she covered her neck and retched. What did you feed me? I glanced at her. Of course, it's what you put in the speech. Her tears burst out immediately. What? You bitch, you fed me a dead toad. I said, oh, deliberately dragging out the tone. So you admit it was you who put it there? Lu Qianqian choked, her eyes shifting guiltily. When did I admit that? You are my own sister. How could you frame me? How convenient. I'm her sister when she needs me. But a bitch otherwise. I laughed derisively. I didn't say what I fed you. If it wasn't you who put it there, how would you know it was a dead toad? Hearing this, Lu Qianqian turned pale. Everyone in this elite school is sharp-witted, and they all understood the situation now. My gosh. This is the first time I've seen such swift karma. Lu Yanyan slinging that toad single-handedly is too cool. From now on, she is the only sister for me. Flunk school. Take revenge on the spot. That's how you maintain high standards. The matter was quickly investigated. It turned out that while the teacher and I were discussing the order of the presentation, she secretly put a dead rat in there. In the video, she acted boldly without any hesitation. She didn't know that the school's grid infrared cameras only activate the red light when the external environment falls below a certain light level set by the camera. Lu Qianqian thought the light being off meant it was not recording. A bit smart but not much. The principal immediately reprimanded her severely, and I, for embodying the school's aggressive educational philosophy, was publicly praised. Of course, the incident also reached my parents' ears. Without a word, my father slapped me again. I sent you to school to learn, not to cause trouble. Can't you be more like your sister and give us peace of mind? My mother initially wanted to intercede, but seeing me frantically washing my hands since I got home, as if traumatized by the dead toad, she also started to scold her. Thank goodness you were just scared. If something had happened to your sister, I would have dealt with you severely. At the last banquet, several industry leaders hinted at arranging a business marriage with their sons. At times like these, of course, my parents would prioritize my well-being. That evening, Lu Qianqian was punished to stand facing the wall and reflect on her mistakes. One evening, as I went out to use the restroom, she was still there, wiping tears against the wall. I couldn't even be bothered to look at her, yet I couldn't resist taunting her. Why bother me when you're already in trouble? Unable to hold back any longer, Lu Chanchan burst into tears. At the freshman orientation, I quickly made a name for myself. Lu Chanchan, on the other hand, due to her own malicious schemes, ended up like a rat crossing the street that everyone wanted to hit. After all, no one is a fool who would want to befriend someone deceitful, who had also metaphorically swallowed frogs. Consequently, Lu Chanchan was no longer called by her name. Everyone started calling her Lu Frog, Lu Bad Breath, Lu Blind to Surveillance. I found it both sad and funny. However, things developing in this way effectively ended her chances of being the favored heroine in the school as she had been in our previous life. She could no longer form cliques and manipulate groups to bully me as before, with no tricks left to play. Lu Chanchan was forced to lay low for a long time, but was that enough? She needed to experience both physical and mental torment, endure all the hardships I had faced in my past life, to repay her debts. In the evening, I asked Tan Jiahe to join me for a play, and on the way, I presented him with an admission letter. Do you want to be my classmate? 8 years ago, he and I had left Qin City together. Back then, I did not take him home but arranged for him to stay in an apartment under my name. Knowing how stifling traditional road education could be for a genius like him, I personally selected 10 industry experts to be his tutors. With talent and hard work, the current Tan Jiahe excelled in everything from financial mathematics to etiquette, horseback riding, tea ceremony, and golf. He didn't really need to go to school with me, but I needed to give Lu Chanchan a reason to continue her antics. He looked puzzled as he took it. Why suddenly think of sending me to a proper school? I kept a straight face and enticed him. I thought getting an MBA might be good for expanding your network, especially since you'll eventually run the Lu Corporation. He pondered for a moment. You want me to provoke Lu Chanchan, don't you? I was startled. How clever this kid was. Although all his skills were cultivated based on Lu Chanchan's preferences, I had never mentioned this to him before, yet unashamedly, I asked. How did you know? He gave a resigned smile. You're not one to undertake pointless tasks, yet, you're having me enroll in an MBA program I could easily pass, and the only variable in this scenario is Lu Chanchan. I guessed it's about her. Plus, you seem to really hate her. Being outsmarted by someone 2 years younger irked me. She has done things to me that are unforgivable. Don't try to persuade me to be more forgiving, or I might just throw you out of the car. I showed off my fist, as large as a sandbag. Tan Jiahe laughed. His warm palm enveloping my hand, gently pressing it down. I won't. Those 2 simple words were resolute and powerful. After I sort out the stocks for the Lu Corporation, I'll enroll. I leaned against his shoulder, swaying the glass in my hand. No rush, Lu Chanchan isn't going anywhere, he softly agreed, taking the glass from my hand. We still have 20 minutes to our destination. Get some more sleep. All right. I obediently closed my eyes. After some time, Tan Jiahe slightly tilted his head back, finishing the remaining liquor in one gulp where my lips had touched. He then lowered his head, lost in thought. He thought I was asleep, but I wasn't. With my eyes slightly narrowed, I watched as a blush crept up his ears and then slowly faded away. I smiled like a fox that had caught a rabbit. Indeed, when the teacher introduced the transfer student Tan Jiahe, Lu Chanchan's eyes lit up. She couldn't hide the admiration in her eyes. Her entire being was like the thawing spring waters of March, rippling with excitement. She sent love letters and chocolates in turns and even offered a hefty sum for Tan Jiahe to be her boyfriend for a few months. When he didn't agree, she followed him to the restaurant. What would you like to eat? My dad is really rich. I can treat you to anything you want. Seeing her monopolize the seat, Tan Jiahe furrowed his brows. This seat is taken. Where? I don't see anyone. Lu Chanchan looked around. She attempted to continue the conversation, but Tan Jiahe stood up and sweetly called her sister. Wow. I never realized he was so good at handling situations. I cleared my throat and raised an eyebrow at Lu Chanchan. Aren't you going to move? Or are you waiting for me to order you some spicy frog? A wave of sticky, nauseating memories surged, causing Lu Chanchan's scalp to tingle, and she reluctantly walked away. Over the next few days, Tan Jiahe kept calling me sister and followed me around. Lu Chanchan watched all this, grinding her teeth in frustration. In this life, all of Lu Chanchan's parents, friends, and loved ones were revolving around me. Given her temperament, it was no surprise she was going crazy. Several times, she wanted to lock me in the bathroom to vent her frustration, just like she had in a previous life, but I had been practicing Sanzhou for 15 years, and escaping from a bathroom stall was no challenge for me. The first time When Lu Chanshan was exhausted from splashing water inside, I casually pushed open the stall door. Oh, getting some exercise. The second time, she got smarter and locked the adjacent door too, but I caught her hands and feet and locked her inside instead, leaving her drenched like a drowned rat. The third time was even more unlucky. The school guidance counselor was also on that floor. It's often said that a person is most vulnerable when using the restroom. The counselor, pants not even pulled up, caught Lu Chanshan by the hair and immediately called her father, but her father was too busy dealing with a hostile takeover of his stocks to care about her. Her mother couldn't be bothered either. Half a month ago, while Tan Jiahe and I were shopping, I saw her father with another woman entering a hotel and casually took a photo and sent it to her mother, who was now busy catching him in the act. Thus, it was the housekeeper who came to the school. I fanned the flames on the side. Every time there's a parent-teacher meeting, my parents fight over who gets to come. Why don't yours want to show up for you? Lu Chanshan bit her lip hard. Didn't you hear what the housekeeper said? They're just busy. Oh, she actually believed that. I suddenly remembered a recording I had saved from years ago and played it from my phone. It was a perfect imitation of my mother's voice from back then. My dear, don't blame yourself. It was your sister being too naughty. If she hadn't insisted on going out to buy snacks, you wouldn't have had to chase after her in the storm. It's good that you're safe. Let's live well. Just the three of us. The recording ended. I smiled subtly. Did you hear that? We are the family of three. Your parents don't really care about you. Hearing this, the hope in Lu Chanshan's eyes dimmed bit by bit. In this life, she never received higher education, and her perspective and knowledge remained unexpanded. Such a person is easily swayed by emotions, overlooking the factual truth. As expected, she shouted "I hate you" and stormed out of the guidance office, plunging into the rain without looking back. Without a second thought about the authenticity of the recording. Well, hate if she must. If you don't hate me, where would my pleasure for revenge come from? Lu Chanshan hadn't been to school for several days. Little did I expect, her absence was all part of a grand scheme against me. I synchronized her purchase records and was surprised to find she ordered an aphrodisiac hallucinogen. I thought she was aiming for revenge against me and was ready to turn her plan against her. To my surprise, her target was Tan Jiahe. That day, as I was busy acquiring shares from shareholders, Tan Jiahe suddenly called me. A car has been following me, and I've started to feel feverish. I'll need to stop driving in 10 minutes. He hesitated, then added, it seems like that kind of drug. I immediately knew who was following him. Without wasting a moment, I checked his driving route. There's a garage under my name about 7 or 8 minutes drive from you. Go there, leave the car, and I'll have someone take you to the hospital. A restrained groan came through the phone before it hung up. I asked a friend at the garage to take Tan Jiahe to the hospital. When I arrived at Lu Chanshan's room, I found the remains of the hallucinogen under the dressing table. That packaging looked eerily familiar. In my past life, Lu Chanshan had used the same trick on me. Back then, my judgment was clouded, and she tricked me into drinking a beverage laced with the hallucinogen. When I woke up, I found myself in an unknown suburban area. Wu Xiaohai, the foolish son of Wu Ma, was on top of me, nearly deranged. That night, the storm raged, the dark night and the crimson intertwined into a distressing backdrop in my memories. Cries and calls for help violently pounded my swollen eardrums. I tried to call for help, but Wu Xiaohai, prone to violence, broke my fingers one by one. Desperate, I prayed for my parents to rescue me, but until dawn, my phone lay quietly in the nearby bushes. They never cared about my disappearance. After venting, Wu Xiaohai casually disposed of my body. Only an unknown elderly woman covered my exposed body with a mat. She called the police, but the Lu family, fearing a scandal would affect the stock market, insisted on keeping my death a secret. Then the truth was buried under the yellow soil, with no echoes around. Holding the vial of the hallucinogen, my heart trembled fiercely. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I had waited over a decade for this moment. Just then, Wu Ma passed by. Curious, miss. What are you looking for in the second young lady's room? Do you need help? I paused, and a smile slowly spread across my lips. No need, Wu Ma, your son lives near Luha, right? An hour later, standing outside Wu Xiaohai's house, I received a call from Tan Jiahe. I'm okay now. Coming to see you. I calmed him down. Rest well. I'll come to see you soon. Suddenly, indescribable sounds spilled from the room, making Tan Jiahe instantly tense. Where are you? Are you in danger? He even started to get out of bed. I quickly told him to lie back down. I'm fine. It's Lu Chanshan. He sighed with relief and finally settled down. I'll wait for you at the hospital. After hanging up, I listened again at the corner of the room. This battle would take a while longer. I handed my camera to my subordinate. Make sure to capture everything, especially the faces. Lu Qianqian, this time, I won't let you get away. In the hospital, the smell of disinfectant was overwhelming. I peeled an apple leisurely. Tan Jiahe looked helpless. Stop peeling, you're almost down to the core. I looked down and indeed, I had been a bit harsh with the knife. Then don't eat it. He snatched the nearly core-only apple. I don't mind, yet he seemed a bit reluctant to look at me. Fine, I put down the knife and picked up my bag. Take care of your injury. I'm heading home for a bit. He looked puzzled. Is there something else? Of course. There was something else. There was a big drama unfolding tonight. I casually ordered a cake online. By the time I got home, Lu Qianqian hadn't returned yet. Today was my father's 50th birthday, but when my parents came home in the evening, they didn't look happy. Recently, the Lu family had been plagued with negative news. First, their jewelry company was reported for radiation levels exceeding standards. Then there were rumors of my father having an affair. In just 3 months, billions had evaporated from the market value. Everything was fine before. How come ever since my sister returned? During dinner, I feigned contemplation. I repeated to my parents what Lu Qianqian had said in a past life. Triggered by my comment, my mom began to rethink. Now that you mention it, the day Qianqian came back, she messed up the project we had been struggling to prepare. Since then, the performance of the Lu's business has been declining. Could it be true, as Yan Yan said, that she came back to jinx us? Although my father remained silent, there was anger between his brows. After a long silence, he finally called the housekeeper. Pack up. Have Qianqian move to the house in the suburbs tomorrow. A loud crash was heard. Something fell to the ground. I looked towards the sound and saw Lu Qianqian standing at the door. Rain drenched her bangs, breaking into disjointed lines. At her feet lay a shattered piece of cake. Truly the good daughter of my parents. Even in such a state, she was thinking about celebrating her father's birthday. Before she entered the house, she must have carefully protected the cake under her clothes, perhaps thinking that after her dad ate this piece of cake, he would treat her as kindly as before. But would her father appreciate it? I doubt it. Compared to his daughter, he loved money and status more. Mom, Dad, what are you talking about? Lu Qianqian trembled as she walked over, incredulous. I haven't done anything. How could I possibly jinx you? My father glanced at her with disdain. Look at you. You don't look at all like a proper lady, whether it's your fault or not. Moving there will spare me the sight and spare me the trouble. My mother wanted to plead for her, but a stern look from my father silenced her. Lu Qianqian, who rarely saw her parents, would now have even less chance to bond with them. Being moved to the suburbs, she fell to her knees, sobbing and begging her father not to send her away. Her expression was as helpless and pitiful as mine was before I was sent to prison in a past life. But would my parents take pity on her? After dinner, they had the housekeeper pack her luggage. My father's decision was undoubtedly the last straw. The last glimmer of hope in Lu Qianqian's eyes finally extinguished. She slowly raised her head, her voice filled with accusation. Dad, why do you treat me with such an attitude? Mom, why didn't you help plead for me? I'm Qianqian. Since I've come back looking like this, none of you even asked what happened to me. Instead, you just told me to move out. You used to say when I was a child that I was your most beloved child. Why have you changed? Why are you treating me like this? My father looked at her as if she were insane. All of this is your own doing. Ever since you returned, you've caused me so much trouble. If you were as trouble-free as your sister, would we have sent you away? Who made me what I am today? Qianqian screamed suddenly, grabbing a dinner knife from the table and pointing it towards our father and mother. I silently stepped back, making room for her battlefield. It was you. Yes, it was you. When I was swept away by the flood, why didn't you look for me? I waited for you in Qincheng for so long. Why didn't you come to find me? I became like this because of you. In fact, after our parents came to Guangshen, they had people look for her for a year, but I had bribed the private detective they hired through Tan Jiahe. So, every time the result was, sorry, we haven't found her yet. Are you out of your mind? Father was enraged by her actions and stood up to hit her. But Qianqian was on the verge of collapse, seeing father lashing out. She suddenly laughed maniacally, waving the knife. Father couldn't dodge in time and received a large gash on his abdomen. Next, she turned the knife towards our mother. She's gone mad. She has a mental illness. Someone come and take her away. Mother didn't even care about father lying on the ground, screaming and hiding behind Wu Ma. A couple are birds of the same forest, who fly separately when disaster strikes. Today, I truly saw that. But Wu Ma had never seen such a scene before. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. Qian continued to advance. Mother, terrified out of her wits, kept dodging around a pillar. The two of them circling the pillar was quite a sight to behold. I took out a napkin, wiped my mouth, and just then, my skirt was grabbed by father. Yen, call an ambulance. He was clutching at straws, hoping I could save his life, but I didn't care. Again, I extended my index finger, making a shushing gesture. Just endure it, it will be over soon. Isn't that what you said when you sent me to jail? Father looked at me in disbelief, then his eyes widened, and he breathed his last. I continued to watch. Just as Qian was about to stab mother, the butler rushed in with people. Sorry miss, we were too late. No, you came too early. I sighed silently, but the outcome was somewhat satisfactory. I found myself in the hospital again, this time. Lying on the hospital bed was my dear father. The old man was tough. Despite the large wound inflicted by Qian, he didn't die. However, the doctors said that when he fell, he hit his head, causing a stroke. Although he was conscious, he would never be able to speak or get out of bed for the rest of his life. I wiped his face for the last time, and while bending down, I whispered in his ear, "Are you curious about who leaked the news of your affair and the use of radioactive jewelry by the Liu family?" His pupils dilated suddenly, staring at me with hatred. He must have understood, but with all his strength, he could only make incomprehensible noises. Just then, a nurse came in to give him an injection. I took one last look at him, a final blow to the heart. Thank you, Dad. I'll take over Liu's company. 5 years ago, I registered the company under the name of Tan Jiahe. He had the Liu family stocks targeted in secret. Now that the chairman has lost his capacity to act and the company is mired in scandals, it's the perfect opportunity to seize power. I'll be taking over in a week. My mother, well aware that I am the only one who can support her in old age, naturally didn't dare to object. Liu Qian, on the other hand, was arrested and jailed for intentional homicide. To my surprise, the person who died by her hand was not my father, but Wu Xiaohai. The police said that after the deed, she pretended to cook for Wu Xiaohai, and while he was off guard, she knocked him out with an ashtray. Unsatisfied, she struck him over 20 times in total, until Wu Xiaohai was a bloody, indistinct mess, motionless. Upon hearing this, I immediately had Tan Jiahe step in to hire Wu's mother to care for my paralyzed father at the hospital. Wu's mother, known for her bad temper, used to slap people around when she was tasked with taking care of me after my release from prison in my previous life when I lost a kidney. Now, with her son killed by Liu Qian's own hands, her feelings towards the murderer's father would certainly not be pleasant. It takes a villain to grind another villain. Once everything had settled down, I visited Liu Qian in prison. In just 1 month, she had become considerably haggard. Her lips were cracked, her hair dry and yellow, her dark circles larger than her eye bags. I was too busy taking over the company to attend to her. Presumably, Tan Jiahe had already made arrangements for her to be well taken care of inside. In our past life, it was the same, one inside, one outside, only this time the one inside was her. I laid out the photos on the table. In them, she was naked, her face flushed, tightly entwined with Wu Xiaohai. Considering Wu Xiaohai's offensive actions, the judge sentenced her to 25 years in prison. But how could that be enough? Your remaining years will be spent trying to erase yourself from the internet. But even upon release, there will always be people who remember what you look like. They will despise you in every corner of the world for me. And you will never escape it. As soon as the photos were brought out, Liu Qian understood what was happening. It was you who lured me to Wu Xiaohai. It was you who fed me hallucinogens. Liu Yen, why did you ruin me? Why indeed? Because you owe me a life. Just because I once tried to push you off a tree stump, I shook my head. Not just that, in our past life, you did many unforgivable things to me, but unfortunately, you don't remember them. Otherwise, I can't even imagine how joyful it would be to see her remorse. Liu Qian was stunned. Are you insane? You're treating your own sister like this over a non-existent past life. And even if I really did hurt you, that was in another life. What does it have to do with this one? I haven't caused you any real harm. Listen to her, always finding excuses for herself, but I won't justify myself, because I understand that my beautiful future isn't due to her mercy. It's because I've already cut off her potential for wrongdoing at the root. You're wrong. I waved my finger in front of her. Harm isn't defined by the perpetrator. Wandering in front of the monument for those 10 years, hate and grievances clung to me like a chronic illness, tormenting me into sleepless nights. Even though my body was gone, I remembered every injury clearly. How could I possibly give up on revenge just because of a lighthearted "it has nothing to do with this life"? There is no generosity in a black lotus. Lu Chanchan glared at me fiercely, and after a moment, she suddenly stood up and began frantically pounding on the partition. Police, I want to see the police. It's Lu Yanyan, she framed me. It's Lu Yanyan, but who would believe the words of someone powerless and insignificant? The prison guard quickly approached, knocked her out, and dragged her away, separated by the display window. I waved at her for the last time. Enjoy your time in prison, my dear sister. While I was busy cleaning up the old parts of the company, my father gave me another big gift. Unable to endure the torment from Mrs. Wu, he intentionally fell from the bed, a blood clot dislodged, causing a cardiac thrombosis, and he passed away that night. At the funeral, I covered my mouth, laughing until tears streamed down my face, while the guests comforted me, urging me not to be sad. Honestly, it was a relief. As for my mother, she cried herself into unconsciousness. Those unaware would think she wasn't the one who abandoned her husband that day. People rushed her to the hospital. I thought she was overly grieving the loss of her support, but when the doctor came to examine her, it turned out she was pregnant. Everyone then urged her to mourn respectfully for the sake of the child. Mother dabbed her tears and gently touched her abdomen. Don't worry, this is surely a blessing from heaven, to leave a descendant for the Lu family. I won't fall easily. She even believed it was a boy. What? The company? Of course, it will be left to the boy. Yan Yan is just managing it temporarily. Eventually, when she marries, it will have to be returned to the Lu family. She stated it as if it was the most natural thing. Then turned to me. Isn't that right, Yan Yan? From the time Lu Chanchan and I were born, they had always expressed a desire for a son. All these years, I had secretly been putting birth control pills in my mother's milk. Who knew? Despite all precautions, it failed the last time, but it doesn't matter. In this lifetime, none of you can escape. I nodded without a word, finished the funeral, and gave Tan Jiahe a signal. That afternoon, a medical report about my mother was placed on my desk. I guessed right. She had developed acute renal failure, because in a previous life, as I was being taken away by the doctor for a kidney removal, I vaguely heard them gossiping. She's so cruel, not even sparing her own flesh and blood. I had suspected that my parents were looking for a kidney source, but had no proof until 2 years ago when my mother started showing early symptoms of kidney disease. It seems the heir of Lu Corporation was never meant to be. The next day, when I handed my mother an exaggerated medical report, she was completely stunned. How long can I live then? I sighed regretfully. The doctor said, with dialysis, maybe 10 years. She collapsed to the ground, murmuring, I'm still so young. How can it only be 10 years? But if you get a transplant, maybe it could be longer. Mother brightened up. Right, a transplant. Who could donate a kidney to me? Saying this, she turned her eager eyes towards me. Let's go get a matching test now. A matching test? You think you're worthy? Suppressing my disdain, I gently patted the back of her hand. Mom, I would of course be willing to donate a kidney for you, but without Dad, I still have to support the Lu family. Without a kidney, how can I ensure you live a life of luxury? What should I do? What should I do? I don't want to die, she asked anxiously, but Chanchan and I are identical twins. Instead of me going for the compatibility test, maybe, I haven't forgotten. Lu Chanchan still owes me a kidney. My mother immediately understood what I meant. I continued to persuade. I've seen the account books left by Dad. Before he passed, he was funding organ trades at the 4th prison and the City Heart Hospital. If you bring up Dad's name, how could the hospital refuse to operate on you? Right, you have the hospital director's phone number, don't you? Everyone wants to live. Hearing there was hope, my mother's face lit up with joy. But her expression fell again in no time. But what about your brother? Will he be okay if we go through with this surgery? There would definitely be consequences. Still, I put on a face full of concern and advised, at this point, how can you still not see clearly? You're not a Lu by blood. Faced with choosing between the heir of the Lu family and your own life, how can you even hesitate? No more needed to be said. My mother, racked with worry, took a long while before she finally made up her mind, touching her belly and whispering an apology. So-called familial love, that's all there is to it. I sneered, stood up, and pulled open the curtains to find it was already evening. Indeed, the sunset is endlessly beautiful. Look at this glow, how bright and beautiful. Shortly after, Tan Jiahe sent an anonymous email to various prosecutors' offices and media outlets. It not only exposed the organ trade between the hospital and the prison but also included a list of involved personnel, with a complete chain of evidence. It quickly drew attention from all sectors of society. The doctors, hearing the rumors, were just about to transplant the kidney into my mother. fearful of being exposed, they fled without caring for the still bleeding patient. By the time the police arrived, my mother was already on her last breath. She passed away before the ambulance could arrive. Of course, Lu Chanqian was not much better off. Having had a kidney forcibly removed, she survived but went mad. Upon waking, she disregarded all restraint and pulled the needle into her artery. The nurses said that her last words were, "I want to be reborn." It seems she overheard the doctor's gossip and figured out that my mother was the mastermind behind it all. In despair, she too wanted to defy fate like me, but no one will bring her daisies. Without good deeds, how can there be good outcomes? The news of her death arrived on my 21st birthday. I opened a bottle of red wine and drank 3 glasses. Thank you all, Dad, Mom, and Lu Chanqian. Your retribution is the best birthday gift I've ever received. Congratulations, you've finally got what you wanted, said Tan Jiahe, lifting his glass to toast with me. For many years, he had been lurking in the shadows, handling matters I couldn't deal with directly. He did well. I am grateful to him, but for the minor sabotage needed to take down the Lu family, someone has to face the consequences. The police are already on their way. Sacrifice him, or sacrifice myself. The answer is obvious. In front of the large window, Tan Jiahe, clad in black, stood with a straight posture. Many years ago, he stood here as well, promising me, "One day, I will give you everything you desire." Seemingly anticipating something, he looked towards the distant lights. His gaze filled with tragic solemnity. "I've always had a question I wanted to ask you." "Ask," I replied, "a request I could still grant. I've seen your records. Before me, you had considered other children. Why did you choose me in the end?" After a moment of thought, I said, "Because you were talented and had never been treated well from a young age. I knew that if I showed you kindness, you wouldn't easily betray me." After being reborn, I spent 3 years studying criminal psychology. Tan Jiahe was my first experimental subject. He looked down and gave a bitter smile. "I knew it. You were using me right from the start." The police sirens were solemn, already sounding beneath the Lu mansion. Neither of us spoke. We just sat silently, waiting for the darkness to swallow the last light of the dusk. Just before the police entered, he suddenly asked me, "Sister, who do you think will win?" Before I could reply, a rugged man pushed the door open. "Miss Lu Yanyan, we have some questions regarding your illegal involvement in the Lu's radiation jewelry and organ trafficking case, and we would like you to cooperate with the investigation." I looked up at Tan Jiahe. Ah, the wolf cub I raised has finally grown up. At the turn of summer and autumn, a cold autumn rain fell. After 15 years, I returned to Qin City, this time, not for revenge, but to pick someone up. 15 years ago, I spent a few days in a detention center, then was told the investigation was over and I could go home. Tan Jiahe took the blame for me. He spent 5 days intentionally exposing the loopholes he had left earlier, taking all the blame upon himself. After the sentence was effective, I visited him in prison. Through the glass, I sneered, "You've grown wings, deceiving even me." He actually smiled. "You're allowed to deceive me, but I'm not allowed to deceive you." He was referring to when I admitted I had been using him when he asked why I chose him. Indeed, my approach to Tan Jiahe was not pure, but more importantly, evil begets evil, and good should also be repaid. Isn't that fair? Everything I gave him, from a piece of clothing to the entirety of the Lu estate, was a reciprocation for that bunch of daisies. Honestly, I had also considered just using Tan Jiahe as a pawn. I left all the morally gray tasks to him so that I could later be free of blame. But over 2 lifetimes, with the people around me being either corrupt or rotten, it was he who let me see the last bit of goodness in this world. I didn't want to destroy him, so at the last moment, I hesitated. I planned to take the blame after my revenge and hand over the Lu estate to Tan Jiahe as my final gesture, but Tan Jiahe was too clever. He calculated all the loopholes just right, and I didn't even have a chance to overturn the case. I lost, thoroughly. I'm honored. My heart trembled. "What?" he continued. "No matter why you chose me, I'm honored and have no regrets." I suddenly remembered the day I brought him home. "Would you like to come with me?" I would. "It's going to be very hard." "I'm not afraid." He kept his promise. "Sooner or later, one day, I will give you everything you desire. I will give you everything you want," he said as tears dripped onto my legs. When I had a kidney removed years ago, I didn't shed a single tear. Tan Jiahe raised his hand and gently wiped the tears from my face on the glass, but it was all in vain. "Don't cry. I can't hold you." It was the first time he admitted anything, yet it seemed like he admitted nothing. I couldn't hold back any longer. "Why?" When it was clearly me, he stopped me mid-sentence, tears surprisingly welling up in his eyes. "Remember, everything I've done has nothing to do with you. After today, don't come again." He looked deeply into my eyes, then he turned around. And I didn't see him again for 15 years. My thoughts were pulled back, the gate opened, and a familiar figure emerged. I waved at him, under the black umbrella. Those amber eyes were still bright. I walked slowly towards him, and just 2 steps away, I slapped him across the face, but he took the opportunity to pull me into his embrace. Raindrops hit the umbrella, making a pattering sound. I couldn't hold back any longer and wept bitterly, leaning against his chest. 15 years had passed. And I couldn't resist the ravages of time. Fine lines had appeared at the corners of my eyes. Tanjiaha had also become more mature and steady, but when we hugged each other, there was not a trace of strangeness. "I missed you a lot," he said first, holding me with one hand and the umbrella with the other. Going to prison had apparently improved his way with words. I laughed, hugging him even tighter. "Me too. I missed you more than you could imagine." A warm autumn breeze brushed against my neck. All things to me were no longer an absurd silence. We held hands and slowly walked towards the way home. The path ahead might still be full of hardships, but I knew that on this road, someone would always be with me. I was not hesitant, nor was I afraid. Story 2, years after graduation, the high school crush who sat next to me had become a major celebrity. At a class reunion, we met again, but he seemed distant and cold. "May I ask who you are?" Everyone thought that Pei Wang had forgotten about me. That was until the news of my accidental death reached my best friend, who while sorting through my belongings, stumbled upon love letters Pei Wang had once written to me. "Jiang Wei, it's too painful to have a secret crush. I don't want to like you anymore." But further down, there was another line. "Never mind, just kidding." That evening, the news of Pei Wang's suicide out of grief made headlines. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the day of the reunion, facing the indifferent Pei Wang. I tentatively took out my phone and sent him a message. The next second, his special ringtone sounded. "Pei Wang, 1. I died on a snowy day. While out seeking inspiration, I got lost in the mountains, trapped by the snow, and died of hypothermia." It was a rather undignified death. Upon receiving the news, my best friend Zhou Yuan rushed over overnight, and was gasping for air from crying so hard when she claimed my body. "Jiang Wei, how could you just leave me behind like this? Even if Pei Wang has forgotten you, you still have me." My soul floated in midair, awkwardly digging my toes into the ground. If I hadn't already been thoroughly chilled, I would have rushed over to cover her mouth. This girl, even after being told it was an accident, made it sound like I had died of a broken heart. Couldn't she let me keep some dignity in this world? But clearly, Zhou Yuan didn't see it that way, for some reason. She was adamant that my death was connected to Pei Wang and immediately made a call to him. It took a long while for Pei Wang to answer. "Hello," a hoarse male voice came through, seemingly just woken from sleep. "Zhou Yuan, what do you want?" "I just finished an overnight shoot." "Pei Wang." Zhou Yuan cut him off, her voice mournful. "Jiang Wei is dead." After her words, I heard a long silence on the other end of the phone. Even though I was now a ghost, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. What would Pei Wang's reaction be to my death? Would he be upset, or would he think it was just the death of someone insignificant? After all, at the class reunion a few days ago, he had been so cold towards me, amidst the teasing from others. He had coldly asked, "May I ask who you are?" When he spoke, the air around seemed to freeze, facing his indifferent gaze. The courage I had mustered before leaving home seemed to vanish into thin air. All I managed to mutter was, "No, it's nothing." Then I lowered my eyes and didn't dare to look up again. Actually, it wasn't incomprehensible. He was now a top-tier celebrity, and it had been 6 years since we graduated. It was a good thing he didn't remember me, otherwise. I always felt like I was letting him down. "Pei Wang, didn't you hear me?" After a long silence on the phone, Zhou Yuan cried out in questioning. "I said Jiang Wei is dead." "She's dead." Thud, a heavy sound came from the other end as if something had hit the floor. Pei Wang seemed to clench his teeth, his voice trembling. "I don't believe it." The next second, the call was disconnected. Zhou Yuan, crying and angry, took a photo of my death certificate and sent it to him before blocking him. I wanted to comfort her, but my hand passed right through her body. In the end, I could only embrace her gently through the air. "Stop crying, silly girl." 5 days after my death, Zhou Yuan brought my ashes back to N City. I didn't have many relatives in China. My only brother, who was on a business trip abroad when he received the news, was now on a plane rushing back. When Zhou Yuan arrived at my home with the ashes, my ragdoll cat had been hungry for 2 days. I had left enough cat food for 3 days, thinking I would be back soon, but I never returned. Zhou Yuan used to visit my place often, and the kitten immediately pounced on her when she opened the door, coaxing her for food. Perhaps the scene evoked emotions, and Zhou Yuan almost cried again. After feeding the cat, it quickly devoured its food. Zhou Yuan then went into the study to start sorting through my belongings. I was a full-time writer and spent more time in my study than in my bedroom. The desk was left just as I had left it, with a photo frame in front of the computer containing a group photo of us friends from high school. In the photo, Zhou Yuan affectionately linked arms with me in the center, while Pei Wang stood on the far right, with people between us. I smiled towards the camera, while Pei Wang's gaze subtly drifted towards me. Now, seeing Pei Wang only irritated Zhou Yuan. She turned to tidy up other things and was about to pick up the photo frame when the cat, having just finished eating, approached. As Zhou Yuan reached for the frame, the cat sprinted forward and swiped at it. The frame fell to the ground, shattering the glass. Startled, Zhou Yuan picked up the cat and then noticed something in the compartment of the frame. Meow. The cat in her arms seemed to realize its mistake and meowed apologetically. Bending down, Zhou Yuan pulled out a letter from the broken frame. Upon opening it, she found a love letter. Not only Zhou Yuan but I too was puzzled. The envelope was yellowed, but the handwriting inside was still sharp. The letter was filled with cryptic yet profound expressions of unrequited love. Jiang Wei, unrequited love is too painful. I don't want to like you anymore. Further down, there was a small line. Never mind, just kidding. Our eyes fell on the signature at the bottom right corner, and both Zhou Yuan and I were stunned. It was signed by Pei Wang, the current top star in the entertainment industry, and the high school desk mate I had secretly loved for many years. I suddenly remembered that this frame was indeed a gift from Pei Wang during our senior year of high school. Over the years, I had moved several times, but this frame had always followed me, sitting beside my computer for many years. Back then, I never imagined that the frame compartment hid this secret. Recalling the last phone call, where Pei Wang, with clenched teeth and a trembling voice, had said, "I don't believe it." My heart felt unbearably sour. Do ghosts feel sorrow too? I watched as Zhou Yuan immediately took out her phone to remove Pei Wang from the blacklist, but before she could make the call, a notification popped up on her phone from a trending topic on Weibo, #Pei Wang suicide hashtag. In the next second, Zhou Yuan almost tremblingly clicked on the trending topic. Then she saw a video posted just minutes ago by a marketing account with millions of followers. The video showed an ambulance parked outside a high-end villa, surrounded by security and staff. The camera then abruptly shifted, and everyone saw a hand dangling from the stretcher, slender and excessively pale. Dark red liquid dripped from the fingertips, splattering on the ground, blossoming like flowers. The headline read, "Pei Wang committed suicide by slitting his wrists at home tonight." The content of the suicide note suggests a love martyrdom. Seeing the prominently displayed words "love martyrdom" on the headline, my mind seemed to lose the ability to think for a moment. No, it shouldn't be like this. It couldn't be like this. How could he die? How could he possibly die? In that instant, countless memories flashed through my mind. Scenes from the past reappeared like a carousel. Finally pausing on that snowy winter day, 17-year-old Pei Wang stood at the bottom of the school building stairs, reaching out his hand to me. "Let's agree on that, Jiang Wei," he said, his eyes curved into a smile as he looked at me, his lips slightly lifted in a gentle expression that was almost too tender to be true. "In the future, if I become a big star, you'll be my manager." As he finished speaking, a gust of wind swept through, covering the entire world in pure white snowflakes. It all felt like a grand dream. Jiang Wei, I snapped back to reality. "What are you daydreaming about? Pei Wang is here," said a concerned Zhou Yuan. I felt a sudden sourness in my eyes. How wonderful. I had actually returned to the day of the alumni reunion. The next second, as I looked up, my eyes met Pei Wang's gaze. In that moment of eye contact, I almost immediately guessed what he was going to say next. "Why are you crying?" The voice in my memory overlapped with the one I just heard. I looked at him blankly. What? Unlike in the past, Pei Wang didn't ask who I was but instead frowned slightly and repeated in a colder tone, "Why are you crying?" As he spoke, he seemed to subconsciously want to reach out his hand but stopped abruptly upon realizing the surroundings. Then he turned his face away, his frown deepening. I touched my face, only then realizing that tears had fallen. "Jiang Wei." Zhou Yuan finally noticed something was wrong. "What's the matter? Are you feeling unwell?" "No, it's nothing." I took a deep breath and hurriedly wiped the tears from my face, pretending to rub my eyes. Probably just an eyelash that fell into my eye. It was embarrassing, crying in front of him. Pei Wang must have found it utterly bewildering. I cautiously looked up at him. He was talking to Zhou Yuan. Zhou Yuan, now an editor at a fashion magazine, was the only one among us who had professional contact with Pei Wang. So after my death in a previous life, she was able to get in touch with Pei Wang. The reunion had been organized a month in advance, knowing that Pei Wang would come, and many people showed up today. Even as the dishes were served, many eyes remained on Pei Wang. Some people seemed born to be the center of attention. He just needed to sit there to be the focus of the room. With Zhou Yuan between us, I bowed my head and quietly ate. Seeing him again was already wonderful. In this life, if I don't die, then he won't either. After 3 rounds of drinks, the class monitor came over with a cup of wine, insisting on toasting Pei Wang. Big star, we thought you wouldn't come. You've really honored us this time, he said. Pei Wang smiled and courteously sipped from the cup. The class monitor's gaze then shifted to Zhou Yuan and me, his brow slightly furrowed. You are Jiang Wei. As he spoke, the other classmates who were toasting each other also turned to look. It really is you. Seeing me nod, the class monitor became somewhat excited. When you suddenly transferred schools during our senior year, we lost touch. I thought you wouldn't come to the reunion. Speaking of which, you were classmates with our big star back then. With those words, I distinctly felt Pei Wang's gaze shift to me following his remark. Is that so? I could tell from Pei Wang's tone that he was indifferent, as if my existence barely mattered to him. I've already forgotten. The food in my bowl had grown cold. I chewed and swallowed, my tongue slightly bitter. In the winter of my senior year of high school, I suddenly transferred schools due to family reasons. Just the day before, we were dreaming about the future together, and the next day, I lost all contact. Over the following years, Zhou Yuan was the only one who stayed in touch with me. Her family was well off, and she knew a bit about my family's situation but never brought it up deliberately in front of me. The next summer, Pei Wang burst onto the scene in a talent show, clinching the championship of that season. That summer, his name was everywhere, his familiar face on TV screens in countless homes, and his songs played in the malls I passed by. It seemed that overnight, I went from sharing a desk with him to being just 1 in a million followers on his Weibo, and finally, I could openly admit that I liked Pei Wang. Studying away from home was tough. Several times, I opened Pei Wang's chat window but hesitated for a long time upon seeing the history of our past conversations. Jiang Wei, where are you? Jiang Wei, you're late. Jiang Wei, what happened? Jiang Wei, it's snowing. Remember to bring an umbrella. Further down were dozens of missed calls and countless caring messages. The last message was sent at midnight. 9 hours later, Jiang Wei, I won't wait for you anymore. It was New Year's Eve. We had planned to meet, but I ended up not showing. I typed and deleted and typed in the chat box. Finally, he suddenly called, startled. I saw the caller ID and instinctively answered. The next second, I heard his familiar breathing on the other end. My throat was sore and hoarse. I opened my mouth but didn't know what to say. Jiang Wei, the person on the other end almost gritted his teeth. Speak, what does it mean to be typing all this time? I took a deep breath and whispered, are you doing well? There was a pause in his breathing. I had imagined countless times what it would be like when I reunited with Pei Wang, but in the end, I just heard his indifferent tone across the phone screen. Thanks to you, I'm doing very well. After a long silence, I dryly said, then, I wish you more and more success, a skyrocketing career. Beep, he hung up. I was left staring at the screen, crying and laughing. Later, as I had said, he continued to rise to stardom. That grand yet discreet crush from my youth thus came to a close. The dinner was very lively. Throughout, Zhou Yuan tried several times to signal me with her eyes, all of which I pretended not to see and ignored. I knew that Pei Wang hadn't really forgotten me. After all, he could name every one of the 40-some classmates but was cold only to me. It was hard to say it wasn't intentional. As the gathering was about to end, I stood up to go to the restroom. On my way back, I passed the terrace and ran into Pei Wang, who had stepped out for some air. Seeing me, he casually rolled up his sleeves, revealing his well-defined forearms, and then expertly flicked a cigarette out of the pack. Glancing at me, he bit on the cigarette and asked, do you mind? I shook my head. The heating was cranked up in the private room, and I had taken off my coat as soon as I entered, having been outside for a while now. I sneezed from the cold. Just as Pei Wang was about to light his cigarette, he snapped the lighter shut again. I looked at him, puzzled. What's going on? Not smoking anymore. But I must admit, the scene just now where Pei Wang nonchalantly bit on his cigarette and glanced over with a mature charm was something I had never seen in him before. My gaze returned and I rubbed my arms, about to head back to the room when, Jiang Wei, The voice behind me suddenly called my name. I turned around instinctively. Then I saw the man who had been indifferent just moments ago now looking at me with frustration. He almost gritted his teeth as he forced out, "Would you never come to see me if I didn't come looking for you?" I was momentarily stunned and blurted out, "But, you were the one who pretended not to know me first." "Shut up," he glared at me. Oh, I immediately looked down. Seeing this, Pei Wang couldn't help but laugh out of irritation. "Jiang Wei, do you even have a conscience?" What a thing to say. I wanted to whisper a rebuttal, but then thought better of it and let it be. "You are the superstar, you are always right, Pei Wang." Ha. He ruffled his hair in annoyance and then turned and strode back to the room. I hurried after him. When I entered, the dinner was just ending. Zhou Yuan, who had been looking for me, saw Pei Wang and me return together and gave us a knowing look. "Yo, did you two go out to catch up? Did Pei Wang remember you?" I thought about it and nodded. Remembered in anger counts. Right, Pei Wang snorted coldly beside me. Before the gathering dispersed, the class monitor suggested we form a new group chat for easier coordination of future meetups. Since Pei Wang had changed his contact information after becoming famous, the class monitor asked Zhou Yuan to add people to the group. Busy catching up with others, Zhou Yuan casually asked me, "Jiang Wei, can you add Pei Wang's secondary number?" "Oh." I took out my phone and scrolled through the contacts. I had added both his primary and secondary numbers a long time ago but hadn't been in touch for years and wasn't sure. I tentatively opened the chat window of Pei Wang's secondary number and before he could react, I quickly sent an emoji. The next second, I heard the sound of a notification from the phone beside me. Pei Wang frantically tried to turn off the screen, but I still caught a glimpse of the word special care flashing across it. Pei Wang, me, what to do? Should I pretend I didn't see it? Before I could think of a way to ease the situation for Pei Wang, Zhou Yuan intervened again. "Perfect, Pei Wang, isn't your manager coming to pick you up? You could give Jiang Wei a ride on the way." Pei Wang immediately frowned, his tone reluctant. "Why should I give her a ride? I've had a drink too, and it's so late. Should she take a taxi home by herself? That would be too pitiful." Pei Wang glanced over at me. I had just put on my coat, and in my eagerness to meet Pei Wang tonight, I forgot it might snow later. I conscientiously fastened the top button but still left a small section of my neck exposed. I was debating whether to hunch my neck or not, considering Pei Wang was still sulking and probably wouldn't care what I was wearing anyway. The next second, Pei Wang casually grabbed the scarf that Zhou Yuan had draped over the chair and swiftly wrapped it around my neck. He was so quick that I barely had time to react before the scarf was snugly covering my face, leaving only my eyes exposed. "There," Pei Wang said after tying a knot and meeting my gaze. I blinked twice. The scarf was tied a bit too tight. I exhaled forcefully, causing my bangs to flutter. Pei Wang seemed like he wanted to laugh but forcefully held it back. "Don't overthink it," he warned me with a stern face. "I'm just worried about paparazzi lurking around. It would be troublesome if they captured your face." Thinking it over, I tried to imitate the tone of sensationalist media. "Shocking. Pei Wang's late-night rendezvous with a mysterious girl. Possible love affair revealed. What on earth do you watch every day?" he said, then quickly turned and walked outside. "Keep up, okay." At the underground parking lot, Pei Wang's manager, Brother Zhou, had been waiting for a while. As Pei Wang strode towards the car, Brother Zhou rolled down the window to speak but then saw me, my face tightly wrapped in the scarf, sneaking behind Pei Wang in a half-run. "Manager, what's going on here?" "Just an old classmate, giving a ride along the way," Pei Wang said as he got into the car. I thought about it and then opened the passenger door. On the way back, Brother Zhou tried several times to peer through the tightly wrapped scarf to see my real face but failed each time. He hesitated to speak, again and again. Finally, he asked, "Aren't you feeling suffocated? The heater in the car is quite strong." I dare not take it off, afraid of being scolded or having my photo taken and posted online, I admitted honestly. Brother Zhou laughed. "So, you and Pei Wang were high school classmates. Was he always so temperamental back then?" From the back seat, Pei Wang clicked his tongue in disapproval. I thought for a moment and then said, "Not really. He was pretty nice in high school, at least to me. He was nice." "So what changed his temperament so drastically after graduating high school?" Pei Wang snickered from the back seat. I stayed silent, feeling a bit guilty. Even the manager sensed something was off. "What's the matter with you, Pei Wang? If you're uncomfortable, just scratch it. Why are you grumbling while I'm chatting with an old friend? Just drop the person off and cut the chatter." Pei Wang's face turned cold again. The manager fell silent and gave me a helpless look. When the car stopped at the entrance of my residential complex, I thanked them and prepared to get out. As soon as I opened the door, the cold air rushed in, with a crystalline chill unfolding at my fingertips. Ah, it's snowing, cough, cough. From the back seat, Pei Wang suddenly coughed violently. Close the door, Brother Zhou, unsurprised, explained to me. Sorry about that, he had a serious illness before, and he becomes quite fragile in winter. I paused, then softly advised towards the back seat, with the cold weather, you should probably smoke less if your throat feels uncomfortable. Surprised, the manager responded, what smoking? Pei Wang doesn't smoke. How could he dare to smoke as a public figure? If that got out, he'd be crucified. Pei Wang suddenly kicked the front seat and coughed. His face turning beet red. Shut up, he muttered. I can still tease you. With a bang, the car door closed. I stood there, dazed, watching the back of the car as it drove away. After thinking for a moment, I took out my phone and sent a message to Zhou Yuan. Jiang Wei, how do you comfort an angry boy? Zhou Yuan replied quickly. Zhou Yuan, did you make Pei Wang angry? Jiang Wei, not really, he got angry out of embarrassment after exposing himself. Zhou Yuan, what did he expose? The fact that he has a crush on me. I didn't dare to tell Zhou Yuan directly, so I changed the subject. Jiang Wei, I've thought it over and decided not to go on a trip. Not going on a trip for inspiration also means no accidental deaths. It took a while before Zhou Yuan replied. Zhou Yuan, that's perfect. I'll find something for you to do. The next day, I found out what Zhou Yuan meant by finding something to do. Early in the morning, she rushed to my house, asking me to get ready to take the cat out. Pei Wang's current film crew is short of a cat actor, and I happen to know the producer. He posted on social media asking for help last night, and I immediately thought of your little cat and signed you up. Hee. Since Pei Wang is still mad at you, it means he definitely still cares about you. If you hang around him more, maybe he'll cool down after a while. After saying that, she stepped on the gas and dropped me off at the entrance of the film crew. Alright. I have other things to deal with later, I'll come pick you up tonight. Before I could refuse, she had already left me and the cat with the crew members. Meow. The little kitten cuddled in my arms, showing off its clingy nature typical of a ragdoll. What a cute little cat. The director will definitely be pleased, a crew member praised. Hearing my little one being complimented, I smiled too, but as soon as I walked into the crew, the little tyrant in my arms flipped over and jumped out. I was startled and immediately joined the crew members in chasing the cat. It was the break time, and several actors were sitting on loungers reading scripts. Hearing the commotion, everyone looked over, and upon seeing that the instigator was a small kitten, they all showed affectionate smiles. What a cute little cat. What color of sack does Mimi like? Chomp chomp, come here, sister has some treats. Amidst the noisy scene, the person on the innermost lounger finally woke up. The man reached for the script covering his face, his brows furrowed, about to speak. I'm sorry, the kitten ran off. I ran over, still panting, and finally managed to catch the culprit in front of all the actors. Meow. The little guy still thought I was playing with it and wagged its tail, jumping onto the lounger. Unexpectedly, a slender hand immediately grasped its neck. The next second, I met Pei Wang's gaze, and instinctively shouted, baby, don't grab. Thud, the script in Pei Wang's hand fell to the ground. His eyes widened in shock as he looked at me, his ears turning red in an instant. What did you just call me? The atmosphere suddenly turned somewhat ambiguous, seeing Pei Wang's face turning even redder. I hesitated for a second between embarrassing him and causing a misunderstanding. Yuan Bao. Come here, meow. The kitten heard me calling it, shook its tail, and started to struggle. Seeing that Pei Wang didn't react, the little tyrant threw a cat punch, freed itself from his hand, and jumped into my arms. Looking at Pei Wang again, he seemed to be in a daze, still staring at me. I had no choice but to quietly introduce him. This is my cat. Its formal name is Jiang Yuan Bao, nickname Baby. Yuan Bao blinked its big eyes at the red-faced biped in front of it, its tail waving like a feather duster, and I was thinking about slipping away before Pei Wang could get angry. Well then, if there's nothing else, I'll just as I turned to leave, I was stopped. Jiang Wei. Pei Wang covered his face with his hand. He squeezed out a few words almost forcibly. If it weren't for the people around, I bet he would have exploded the very next second. Don't go. I dared not move again. At that moment, the staff member from earlier finally caught up. Miss Jiang. Did you catch the cat? The director wants to see it. I immediately responded, yes, I can't wait to meet the director. After saying that, I walked so fast I didn't dare to look back at Pei Wang. Jiang Yuan Bao, the kitten, successfully passed the audition and needed to stay with the crew for a month, playing the male lead's pet cat. When I returned, the break had just ended, and Pei Wang had already gone to shoot. The staff took me around the set, and finally, we went to watch Pei Wang film. Our teacher Pei is really good at acting, you can rest assured with the kitten working with him. I watched Pei Wang, who was filming. The scene was about him reuniting with the female lead after a long separation, facing his childhood sweetheart he hadn't seen for years, displaying a tender smile. In the frame, Pei Wang looked up at the female lead, about to curve his lips into a smile. Then he saw me standing behind the camera. Cut, the director called. Pei Wang's smile is good, but too flirtatious. Let's try that again, Pei Wang. The smile didn't disappear, it just shifted from Pei Wang's face to mine. The director really pays close attention, even to the smallest facial expressions. I found it amusing and continued to watch with the cat in my arms, until a familiar male voice reached my ears. How about it? This guy looks pretty handsome while filming, doesn't he? I turned around, my smile pausing. I just came to visit the set and saw you here, Chi Yan said with a smile, as the assistant director hurried over upon seeing him. Mr. Chi, it's fine, carry on, Chi Yan said. I've arranged for some afternoon tea to be sent over. Thank you, Mr. Chi. The staff members thanked him. Chi Yan just waved his hand. This drama is your investment? I asked him. Yes, the best team, the best script. All set to promote my golden goose, he said, looking very pleased as he watched Pei Wang acting. This guy has the potential to become a movie emperor. Hearing this, I nodded in agreement. Although he came from a talent show, I had to admit that Pei Wang definitely had a knack for acting. But what about you? Chi Yan turned to look at me. What are you doing here? I lifted the cat in my arms and shook it in front of him. The crew needed a cat, so I brought you on bow here to earn some money for cat food. Alright. I'll make sure he's well taken care of, he assured. I laughed. So, you're interested in Pei Wang? Seeing that I kept staring at Pei Wang, Chi Yan asked. Yes, I nodded. I like him and want to pursue him. Chi Yan, he looked at me in shock. But it seems he's still mad at me. Looking down, I felt somewhat dejected as I stroked the cat in my arms. Forget it, I'll go back and have my brother increase the investment. Your Highness, do you need me to tie him up and deliver him to your doorstep? I burst out laughing. As Pei Wang finished his scene and eagerly looked around, he couldn't find that familiar figure. Don't look anymore. He left early due to some matters, Chi Yan remarked coolly from the side. President Chi. It was only then that Pei Wang noticed his boss had come to visit the set. You know Jiang Wei, such a lucky guy, Chi Yan mused, eyeing Pei Wang. Even though you're my cash cow, she's the little princess of the Su family, way out of your league. Chi Yan had been childhood friends with Su Qing, so he knew a lot more about the Su family than others might, due to having an older brother as the heir. Chi Yan had grown up relatively freely and was expected to become just another rich second generation without much purpose. However, after graduating from college, Su Qing invested in him to start this entertainment company. Over the years, it had flourished, making stars out of many, including Pei Wang. With Pei Wang's current status in the industry, his word could easily sway many, but Jiang Wei was different. Upon hearing this, Pei Wang frowned slightly. Her surname is Jiang. Having been in the industry for years, he was familiar with the Su family but had never linked Jiang Wei with them, not to mention, she had never brought it up during their high school days. A Jiang, but part of the Su family. What's wrong with that? Chi Yan asked, now somewhat curious himself. What's your relationship with her? How do you know each other? We were desk mates in high school, Pei Wang said, sounding unexpectedly gloomy. She transferred schools suddenly in our senior year and I haven't seen her since. Senior year? Huh, Chi Yan thought for a moment, then realized, that was the year Mrs. Su fell ill. That was when she was brought back to the Su family. Hearing this, Pei Wang looked sharply at him. What did you say? This involves personal family matters. So it's not really appropriate for me to discuss it directly with you. Chi Yan patted his shoulder. Just know that she's now with the Su family. Pei Wang was silent for a long while before finally speaking slowly. So, she had her own difficulties back then. Chi Yan couldn't help but laugh speechlessly. Did you even listen to what I said? I've never seen such a pure case of being love-struck. The next morning, I walked out of the study, feeling lightheaded. The new article I started yesterday suddenly began to get a lot of traffic, but I had no drafts prepared. Facing the editor's urgent requests, I didn't dare tell her I hadn't even outlined the plot, so I hurried home from the set to write all night. I had arranged with the crew to bring the kitten for a screen test this morning. Glancing at the time, I mustered the energy to take a taxi there. Thanks to Chi Yan's parting words yesterday, the crew was noticeably warmer to me today. The kitten was taken to shoot. and I was dying of sleepiness, barely hearing someone calling me, "Jiang Wei, come sleep here." Okay, too tired to think why Pei Wang's tone had become so gentle, I walked over and fell asleep on the lounge chair. When I woke up in the afternoon, a long men's down jacket covered me. Awake, Pei Wang's voice was near my ear. I looked up to see him holding Yuan Bao, opening a can of cat food for it. Wait, when did he buy cat food? Yuan Bao, come here to mommy. The kitten heard but ignored me. Pei Wang had not only bought the most expensive cat food but also a large pack of freeze-dried treats, which the kitten was now devouring eagerly. "You want me to sing a song for you?" His voice carried a mix of amusement and affection. Diffusing the awkwardness of my clumsy request, I nodded, still slightly inebriated. Feeling the warmth of the alcohol contrast with the chill of the night, Pei Wang adjusted his posture, cleared his throat slightly, and began to sing softly. His voice, usually commanding and assertive, now carried a gentle melody that filled the quiet space of my apartment. As he sang, the earlier tension eased, replaced by a comforting tranquility. The playful and teasing nature we usually shared was set aside, revealing a more tender connection. His song was a simple one, but in that moment, it felt profoundly reassuring. When he finished, he smiled, his eyes reflecting a sincerity that was both disarming and endearing. "There," he said, "hopefully that will help you sleep better." I couldn't help but smile back, touched by the gesture more than I expected. As he stood up to leave, I felt a pang of disappointment mixed with gratitude. "Thank you, Pei Wang," I said, my voice softer than I intended. He nodded, then paused at the door, turning back briefly. "Take care of yourself, Jiang Wei. Don't make a habit of drinking too much," he added with a light-hearted tone, yet his concern was palpable. As the door closed behind him, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me, gratitude, warmth, and a surprising sense of closeness that the night had unexpectedly brought. "Do you have any idea how expensive my appearance fee is per minute?" My brain was especially slow after drinking, and it took me several seconds to comprehend his words. Looking into his eyes, I slowly responded, "It's fine, I have money." "Oh," Pei Wang chuckled lightly, "I forgot, you're the young lady of the Su family." I looked at him puzzled, curious about how he knew who I was. "The young lady's request is something I dare not ignore." He paused, then spoke in a slower, more coaxing tone. "But what benefits would I get for singing to the young lady?" Tempted by his charm, I said without hesitation, "Anything you want. As long as I have it." "Anything?" he asked jokingly. "Can I even ask for an Academy Award?" That might be a bit difficult." I was a bit troubled, "but it's not impossible. If I go back and beg my brother, he might agree." The person across burst into laughter. "Never mind." He looked at me with a smile, his tone so tender it was almost uncharacteristic. "I was just teasing you." His familiar words suddenly reminded me of the love letter tucked inside the album. I looked at Pei Wang in front of me and suddenly reached out to hold his face. "Pei Wang, Meeting his puzzled gaze, I murmured softly, "Can you stop disliking me?" Pei Wang initially froze, then his eyelashes quivered. He looked down and remained silent. My heart suddenly felt sour, and I sniffled. "That winter night 6 years ago, during New Year's Eve, were you cold, standing alone in the square waiting for me? What were you thinking?" Pei Wang remained silent. It took a long while, until I was almost dozing off, for him to finally respond. "Yes, it was very cold." He spoke, his voice very soft. "So, Jiang Wei, don't leave me in this winter anymore." I didn't respond, already asleep on the couch, but in my dream, Pei Wang didn't leave. Instead, he hummed softly, gently patting me to sleep. His singing was so tender that it unconsciously smoothed my furrowed brows. The last thing I remember was someone leaning close to my ear, whispering, "Baby, It must have been meant for the cat. The next day, my brain felt like mush from the hangover. When I woke up in bed, I couldn't remember how I got back to my room. There were several unread messages on my phone, from my brother, Zhou Yuan, and also Pei Wang. My brother's message was telling me he would be returning to the country next month. Zhou Yuan was asking why she didn't receive my New Year's greetings first last night, wondering if I didn't love her anymore. As for Pei Wang's, I stared at the message on the screen, suddenly feeling illiterate. "Pei Wang, I made you a hangover soup, remember to drink it." I thought about it and tentatively replied to him, "Jiang Wei, did I say something wrong again after getting drunk yesterday?" Pei Wang responded immediately, Pei Wang, go ahead and drink it. I didn't poison it." "Alright then." Feeling reassured, I got up, washed up, and went to heat up the hangover soup to drink. As I sipped the soup, I began responding to unread messages one by one. after selectively ignoring a message from my editor that was disguised as a blessing but was actually nudging me for my draft, I habitually opened Weibo. That's when I saw a post from Pei1 from 10 hours ago, late at night, Pei1v, urgent, how do you make delicious hangover soup? Looking at the comments, many fans shared their family recipes for hangover soup, and some were concerned if Pei1 had drunk too much. Pei1 replied to one of the top comments that showed concern, no, it's a family member who got drunk, family, huh. Looking at the bowl of hangover soup in front of me, suddenly it seemed more than just an ordinary bowl of soup. Damn, I even suspected Pei1 of poisoning it. I'm really terrible, aren't I? 13. I had agreed to be Pei1's part-time assistant, so I continued to report to the set on time every day. Over time, everyone else also learned that Pei1 and I were old classmates. During breaks, some would even gossip with me. People must have chased after teacher Pei a lot in high school since he's so handsome, right? I thought about it. Not really. I remember one Valentine's Day, many boys in our class received chocolates, but he didn't get any. He even asked me for some. In the end, I just bought a random piece from the store for him, and he was really happy. Wait, something seems off. I suddenly realized something. Would someone who usually receives love letters frequently not get any chocolates on Valentine's Day? I seemed to have suddenly understood something. Just then, Pei1 came back from filming, saw me still chatting with others, and frowned. Aren't you supposed to be assisting me? The water's gone cold, but I just looked at him. My gaze filled with silent accusation. Was the chocolate I bought on a whim tasty on that Valentine's Day in our first year of high school? Pei1, and where did you hide the other chocolates that people gave you? I suddenly feel that not everything should trouble an assistant, it's just hot water, I'll get it myself. After saying that, Pei1 turned around to get the hot water. Meanwhile, I watched his retreating figure, feeling somewhat amused. So it was that early, huh? 14. On the day the filming wrapped up, my novel also just happened to conclude. Over the months, I had gained a lot, and the novel's data exploded in popularity after its conclusion. My editor told me that many people had approached her wanting to buy the rights, and she was in the process of screening them. On the day of the wrap-up party, I went with Pei1. As the year was drawing to a close, Chi Yin, although busy, also made it in person. However, I didn't expect my brother to come with him. Upon seeing Su Qing, I instinctively restrained the smile on my face and respectfully called out, "Brother, MHM, Su Qing responded, then his gaze fell on Pei1 standing next to me, and he frowned slightly. Seeing this, Pei1 clearly became a bit nervous. Mr. Su, hello, I'm Pei1, MHM, Su Qing nodded slightly, acknowledging him. He was always reserved. 6 years ago, on that afternoon when he first knocked on my door, it was the same, as I was about to head out. I was startled to see Su Qing and his bodyguard standing behind him when I opened the door. Who are you looking for? Who has come? Curious as to why I hadn't made a sound for a long time, my mother came out of the kitchen to check on me. Her gaze froze when it landed on Su Qing's face. Hello, I'm Su Qing. The man glanced around the room's interior, his eyes finally resting on my face, which bore a slight resemblance to his own. His expression flickered briefly. Grandmother is seriously ill. She wants to see you and your mother. As he spoke, I saw my mother's face turn pale, her expression turning sour. Eventually, she nodded. All right, I'll get ready. Thus, the plans I had to go out were abruptly changed, and I was taken back to the old Su family mansion. There, I learned about my origins from Su Qing, my half-brother from the same father. It wasn't as my mother had told me, that my biological father had passed away early, nor was it a mix-up like in the novels. My biological father was the only son of the wealthy Su family, and I was the result of his affair during his marriage. I was the proverbial illegitimate daughter, a being shrouded in secrecy. After following his family's arrangements for a business marriage, Su Qing's parents' relationship cooled off within a few years. During a long business trip, my father had pretended to be single and dated my mother, which led to my birth. When my mother wanted to discuss marriage with him, she realized she had been deceived. With the Su family's significant influence, ordinary people couldn't possibly contend, and given my father's status, no one would believe she had been deceived. Eventually, due to her poor health making an abortion life-threatening, my mother was forced to give birth to me and chose to raise me alone. It was a cliché story, with the man responsible disappearing without a trace. When I was brought to the Su family home, I realized in my hurry I had forgotten my phone. Although the house was well heated, I sat outside the hospital room feeling a chill in my hands and feet. My mind seemed to stop working at that moment. merely absorbing information from the surroundings passively. I met my biological father and his wife. Su Cheng's mother was a beautiful woman. Facing her, my mother instinctively felt guilty and at a loss. Mrs. Su. Her eyes reddened, unsure of what to say, but Mrs. Su only smiled gently. Taking her hand, "It's okay, I know it's not your fault, I don't blame you." She then turned to look at me. "This young girl really resembles our Chin, just like grandmother." She didn't say I looked like my biological father, only that I resembled my brother and grandmother. Beside us, my father frowned as if he wanted to object. The next moment, Su Ching opened the door, and my father immediately quieted down. "Grandmother wants to see you," said Su Ching. So I met my biological grandmother as well. I had only seen this woman in magazines and newspapers before, knowing she had built her own business empire and that public opinion about her was mixed, often focusing on her romantic history. Society always seems particularly harsh on women. It seemed that to outsiders, how she made her money wasn't as important as the insinuations that a woman's rise couldn't be without the involvement of men. But the moment I saw her, I knew she was not as the outside world portrayed her, because the look she gave me was so tender. She lay there weakly in the hospital bed, yet she was apologizing to my mother. "I'm sorry, I didn't raise my son well, which caused you so much suffering. It must have been hard raising a child on your own, wasn't it? As a mother, you are strong and brave." In just a few sentences, seeing her tears fall directly brought a heavy silence. For many years, she had been plagued by guilt and regret, believing that she had destroyed another family, yet no one had ever spoken these words to her. "What is your name?" the elderly lady asked me softly. "Jiang Wei," I replied. "That's a good name." The old lady smiled. "Your mother has raised you well." After saying this, the elderly woman was visibly weak but still mustered the strength to speak to Su Ching standing beside her. "Ah Ching, remember, this is your sister. Your father is useless. The company will eventually fail under his management. So I've already prepared my will in advance. After my death, the company and shares will belong to you, and you can run the household, but the real estate and stores in my name, along with all my jewelry, will go to Jiang Wei. You have no objections, right?" "I have no objections, Grandma." Su Ching, who was raised by his grandmother, never contradicted her. Only Su's father, standing to the side, dared not speak his anger until he burst out after leaving the hospital room. "What does mother mean by this? I am her biological son. Why does everything go to the grandchildren?" "Shut up, you still have the cheek to ask why." Su's wife didn't hide her disdain and disgust. "Marrying you was truly my bad luck. If you weren't Ah Cheng's biological father, even glancing at you would be bad luck." After saying this, she turned her head to look at me. "It was very nice to meet you today, little Jiang Wei. If you need anything, just talk to your aunt and brother." "Oh, okay," I replied, stunned as I watched the scene unfold, feeling that this wealthy family was not quite as I had imagined. With his wife not supporting him, Su's father turned to look at my mother, seeing that my mother also didn't want to engage with him. He exploded, "Why do you look down on me too?" Eventually, it was Su Ching who walked out of the hospital room, and with one look, Su's father immediately fell silent. Then, Su Ching took me to a medical facility owned by the Su family for a paternity test. Seeing that I hadn't spoken throughout, Su Ching glanced at me. "Don't be nervous. The inheritance you are about to receive is no small sum, it's just routine." I numbly nodded my head. The wait was long. And even though Su Ching had expedited the process, it felt like an eternity. Finally, when the fresh paternity test results were delivered to Su Ching, he finally put down the document he was viewing on his tablet and walked over to me. "Let me introduce myself again. Hello, Jiang Wei, I am Su Ching." He looked down at me. "Your half-brother sharing the same father." Regaining my senses, I heard Su Ching asking me, "I heard your novel is a hit. Are you interested in selling the rights?" "Whoa. Little sister is quite impressive," Chi Yan said interestedly as he raised an eyebrow. "What's the name of the novel? I'll have my people follow up when I get back." "Price is not a problem. It's more reassuring for us to buy and adapt it ourselves." In just a few words, it seemed that the matter was settled. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Pei Wang's gloomy expression and felt a tightness in my chest. "I do want to sell the rights, but I would like Pei Wang to play my male lead. Is that okay?" At this, Pei Wang looked at me in surprise. Su Ching subtly furrowed his brow, while Chi Yan laughed. "Of course, that's fine." Then someone came to greet him, and Chi Yan raised his glass to mingle. The scene left me, Pei Wang, and my brother exchanging glances. Finally, it was Su Ching who broke the silence. He looked at Pei Wang and asked, "Shall we talk?" Pei Wang nodded and said, "Yeah, me. Did anyone ask for my opinion?" But I didn't dare to contradict my brother, so I could only watch helplessly as they left, turning to my brother's assistant. Do you think my brother will just hand over a check when he arrives? The assistant pondered for a moment. The president doesn't usually do that. Oh, that's good then. I had no idea what they discussed, but after that day, Pei Wang went quiet for a while, and even stopped arranging assistant work for me. Until one night, a month later. Pei Wang and I suddenly became the subject of a trending topic. Somehow, someone had captured the scene of Pei Wang dropping me home that night. Even the headline was nearly identical to the nonsense I had previously made up. Hashtag Pei Wang's late night secret meeting with mysterious woman. Suspected romance exposed. Hashtag. Pei Wang was at the peak of his popularity, his last drama having just wrapped up. This trend shot straight into the top 3 immediately. Casual fans and major gossip accounts began spreading rumors, and in no time, Pei Wang became the target of public scrutiny. However, before the uproar could escalate, someone noticed the trending topic quickly losing heat, with many related entries disappearing in an instant. At that moment, Pei Wang's management company issued a legally stamped cease and desist letter. The astute onlookers realized something was amiss. What's going on? The heat dropped so quickly. Could it be the work of big capital? Insider news. The woman's background is not simple. Can't say more. Alright, Pei Wang, you've really climbed high now. So, is the romance rumor true or not? I'd say it's highly likely true. Upon seeing the trending topic, Zhou Yuan immediately called me. What's going on? Are you and Pei Wang together? No, I was really anxious now. Although I knew Pei Wang had taken me home that night, I hadn't expected to be photographed. If Pei Wang got into trouble because of me, it would be a terrible sin, no matter the cost. The trending topic had to be taken down. I was about to call Qi Yan when Pei Wang suddenly messaged me. Pei Wang, Jiang Wei, don't worry, I'll handle it. But I was even more worried about his future, and quickly typed a response. Jiang Wei, don't be rash, it's okay for me to be discussed a bit. Really? Pei Wang didn't reply. Minutes later, Zhou Yuan sent me a 10-second voice message of her screaming, quick. Check Pei Wang's Weibo. Instinctively, I opened Weibo, but the app was so overloaded it nearly crashed. 10 minutes later, when I finally logged in, Pei Wang's post had already blown up, because Pei Wang had shared our photo taken in front of the computer and openly responded, Pei Wang V. She is the one I've secretly adored since my youth, the one for whom I've striven so hard. Reading this post, I felt like a bottle of peach soda that had been shaken, bubbles of excitement bursting within me. At that moment, I remembered the love letter that had yellowed with age. Years later, the love I couldn't voice before was now proudly declared under the sunlight. Ding, a message from Pei Wang popped up on my phone. Pei Wang, come downstairs. I almost leapt from my bed, threw on a down jacket over my pajamas, and rushed out the door. Only once outside did I realize it had begun to snow. Pei Wang, who had just been trending online, was now standing right before me in the flesh. I wanted to rush up and embrace him, but feared being photographed again, so I had to sneak over, constantly looking around as I approached. Why did you come? It's so risky. Before I could finish, Pei Wang had already embraced me. Why sneak around? He said, I've already made it public. No need to hide anymore. Am I really that unbearable to look at? Oh, you should be more mindful of your actions. Don't get too handsy. I struggled a few times, but seeing that I couldn't break free, I was forced to just enjoy it. I buried my head in his chest and muttered gloomily, I'm a fan of your career. Pei Wang raised an eyebrow. I thought you were just a fan of my looks. Am I that shallow? Oh, then who is it that has my photo in the most prominent place in the study? I lifted my head from his chest, feeling a bit embarrassed. Why did you go through my house without my permission? Some drunkard passed out on the sofa and never woke up. I had to at least get her to her room. How would I know which one was the bedroom and which was the study without looking? I couldn't argue. He had a point. Alright, you've seen me now, and you have work tomorrow, right? You should head back. Having been Pei Wang's part-time assistant for a while, I was well versed in his schedule. Pei Wang, are you sure there's nothing you want to tell me? I shook my head. Fine, then I'm leaving. Pei Wang seemed upset again, though he said he was leaving. He moved incredibly slowly, making small gestures every 3 steps and turning back dramatically every 5 steps, and there I was, just watching his antics. As expected, Pei Wang, not getting the response he hoped for, stormed off in a fit. Jiang Wei, if you don't stop me, I'm really going to leave. I thought for a moment. Pei Wang, are you acting coy? Pei Wang didn't respond, his face turning red. Well, what could I do? Pei Wang, my cat can do backflips. Want to come and see? Pei Wang hurried back in a few strides. Let's go. I can't wait to see our Yuan Bao do a backflip. A year later, the first television adaptation of my debut novel began filming. Pei Wang played the male lead. After the drama aired, what exploded in popularity before the plot was actually the theme song of the drama. Confession Letter, composed and written by Pei Wang himself, swept through all major apps that summer, becoming a viral background music. Everyone knew that this song was written by Pei Wang for a girl he had a crush on at 18. That year, there was a popular post online: to forget someone, do you forget their voice or their face first? The top reply was, neither, you forget their flaws first. But all I remember are your good qualities, Pei Wang said with a helpless smile. So, at 18, he wrote this song, remembering you bowing your head to write, the handwriting on your test paper's so beautiful, remembering you napping on the desk, your heartbeat audible even over your breathing, remembering every strand of your hair flying as you ran across the playground. I guess, that's what having a crush is all about. I remember all your looks, partaking in every moment of your youth. In the end, I could only stand afar in the crowd, listening to you wish me a smooth future. My debut novel's TV adaptation exploded in popularity with the boost from Confession Letter. Everyone knew that the original author was the girl Pei Wang had a crush on at 18. At the celebration party, fans jokingly said Pei Wang had finally climbed a high branch. To this, Pei Wang took it as a compliment rather than shame. After all, I really did aspire to reach for the stars. I laughed at his words. Miss, oh no, I should say, esteemed author now. Pei Wang smiled at me, suddenly pulling out a ring and dropping to one knee. Would you give me this chance? After the shock, with tears in my eyes and hand over my mouth, I extended my hand to him. It depends on how you perform. Just kidding. In fact, from the moment I saw that love letter, I had imagined that this day might come. End of main text. Extra chapter. Su Ching. The day Pei Wang won the Best Actor award, Qi Yan was the happiest person. You've always had an eye for talent, he said. He rushed to Su Cheng's office, so excited he nearly bowed down in gratitude. I was hesitant when you first recommended him to me, but now it seems I was blind not to see the goldmine right in front of me. Su Cheng put down the documents he was holding and, uncharacteristically, smiled. Our little sister is doing us proud, too. Her first novel adapted into a TV drama was a huge hit. Does your family have some kind of money-making gene? This reminded Qi Yan of something. I remember back when you were a melodramatic teenager, you used to say you wanted to be a writer, Su Cheng. Then in high school, when a group of girls were fawning over how handsome you were, you said you wanted to debut as an idol, Su Cheng. Ah, how merciless the years are, turning you into the cool and aloof CEO. This time, Su Cheng really felt a headache coming on. Having a childhood friend like this was a mixed blessing. He knew all your embarrassing history. You know my family's situation, Su Cheng said calmly. Circumstances didn't allow it. Su family had only him as the heir, raised by his grandmother and mother. He had many immature dreams in his youth, and both women never skimped on their praises. Growing up surrounded by the love of these women, he had to mature quickly upon learning that his parents had long been estranged and that he had a half-sister. Really, with your family's situation, any other rich second generation would not have been so tolerant towards a half-sibling. You are an exception, Qi Yan remarked. It's not their fault, Su Cheng said softly. Being raised by two women, he knew the struggles they faced. Even someone as legendary as his grandmother was often talked about more for her romantic entanglements than her accomplishments. He didn't want his sister to go through the same. When their grandmother passed away, the Su family faced internal and external threats. Relatives were eyeing their wealth, and he had to protect his sister Jiang Wei by arranging for her transfer to another school. Later, when he learned she wanted to be a writer, he supported her fully. After all, she was his only sister. Speaking of which, what did you and Pei Wang talk about in private? Hearing this, Su Cheng recalled the conversation and couldn't help but laugh. What did we talk about? I told him that Jiang Wei is the only girl in the Su family generation, and the dowry prepared for her is quite substantial. And then, did you ask him to prepare an equally substantial bride price? Qi Yan was already calculating how much Pei Wang had earned over the years, but no matter how much, how could it compare to the Su family's wealth? To this, Su Cheng just chuckled. No, I asked him to marry into our family. What? Qi Yan was stunned, then he agreed without hesitation. Truly a hopeless romantic. Extra chapter, Pei Wang, 1. Jiang Wei transferred schools. Pei Wang heard the news while lying in bed with a high fever. On New Year's Eve, he was alone in the square, waiting from day until dark, until he finally sent Jiang Wei that message in frustration. Jiang Wei, I'm not waiting anymore. At that time, he thought she had just missed their appointment due to some last-minute issue, but he never expected that the next time he heard news of her, she had transferred schools. Just the day before, they had been dreaming about the future together, and Jiang Wei had even promised to be his agent someday. Little liar, Pei Wang had just finished an overnight shoot when he received an invitation to a class reunion. He had been incredibly busy during that period. Initially, he wanted to decline as he usually did, but after receiving a message from Zhou Yuan saying that Jiang Wei would also be there, he fell silent. After much hesitation, he finally asked for half a day off from the crew. The reason? To attend a high school reunion. Upon seeing Jiang Wei for the first time in a while, he intended to act indifferent and ask who she was. However, the moment he saw her tears, his heart clenched painfully. Why are you crying? As he asked, he instinctively reached out to wipe her tears but stopped himself, remembering the setting they were in. Damn it, hadn't he agreed to at least give her the cold shoulder for a bit? How could he lose his resolve the moment he saw her? Pathetic. When dinner was nearly over, Jiang Wei stepped out, and he immediately followed her. So, when Jiang Wei emerged from the restroom, she found him with his sleeves rolled up, showing off his forearms, a cigarette in his mouth, and a mischievous look on his face. He had practiced this look countless times in front of a mirror for a role, knowing it made him look his coolest. Sure enough, Jiang Wei looked at him with a hint of admiration. The next second, she sneezed. Pei Wang, seeing her about to go back inside, Pei Wang grew anxious. Jiang Wei, if I don't come looking for you, would you never take the initiative to find me? Jiang Wei was momentarily stunned, but, you were the one who pretended not to know me first, yet, he just couldn't accept it. He couldn't bear the thought of being the only one trapped in those memories. Jiang Wei, do you even have a conscience? If you had even a shred of conscience, you would feel indebted to me, even just a little. Please. He couldn't bring himself to say the rest and, frustrated, he ruffled his hair and strode back to the private room. Jiang Wei, wrapped up in a scarf, looked adorable, watching her exhale sharply, her bangs blowing straight up. He almost couldn't suppress his laughter. He managed to hold it back. Was he such a soft-hearted person? On the ride back, listening to Zhou Ge and Jiang Wei chatting in the front, he couldn't help but hum and haw, until Zhou Ge got annoyed. Pei Wang, what's the matter with you? If you're uncomfortable, just scratch it. I'm trying to have a conversation here. Who are you humming and hawing for? After that, through the rearview mirror, he saw Jiang Wei slightly lift the corners of her mouth. She was amused by him being scolded. That made him unhappy again. When Jiang Wei got off, it just started to snow. A cold wind blew in, and he instinctively began to cough. After a severe illness years ago, his body became particularly vulnerable in winter. Initially, it was just a couple of coughs, but seeing Jiang Wei look somewhat distressed, he coughed harder. Then he heard Jiang Wei say, it's cold recently. If your throat is uncomfortable, maybe smoke less. Zhou Ge, the big fool, immediately debunked him. What's smoking? Pei Wang doesn't smoke. He's a public figure. How dare he smoke? If he gets caught, he'd be crucified. He kicked the front seat hard, his face red from coughing and partly from frustration. Shut up, I could smoke you. Thinking he had put on a big act, he didn't expect to have exposed himself instead. Jiang Wei had adopted a cat, named Baby. Pei Wang had never been so embarrassed in his life. Would Jiang Wei think he was being presumptuous? But who asked her to call out Baby in front of him? If the kitten's nickname was Baby, why shouldn't she call it? After much internal struggle, he finally called his assistant. Go, buy some canned cat food and freeze-dried treats, the best ones. The cat was great. It would be even better if it recognized him as its dad. Then, through Qi Yan, he learned of Jiang Wei's true identity, a wealthy family's illegitimate daughter. A possibility he had never considered before. So, did she have her own difficulties from the beginning? Pei Wang suddenly felt deflated. What was he doing? He sulked on his own, never considering that she might have had her reasons too. The night he drove Jiang Wei home, he admitted he had his own selfish reasons. Yet when Jiang Wei asked him, he remained silent for a long time. Was it very cold that New Year's Eve 6 years ago? He then tried hard to recall. That snowy New Year's Eve 6 years ago. As he watched the crowd come and go in the square, listening to the couples next to him count down, what was he thinking about? Jiang Wei was almost asleep. He spoke softly, almost pleading. Yes, it was very cold, so, Jiang Wei, don't leave me in this winter anymore. Jiang Wei had fallen completely asleep, without responding to him, yet, even so, he still liked her so much.